See, great look. And he finds Hassan Ward and one. The exclamation point right there.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Room on the SEC defensive team before he got to Auburn. He was at Morehead State, was the OVC Defensive Player of the Year. Nice spin and finish. Tonight, Broom's got 8. He is carrying this Auburn team.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Fakes on the jump shot. He can elevate here. Crowd doesn't get the bounce. They don't get back. Danger runs the floor, which he does well. And Danger finishes.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Horn again playing with 4 fouls. 21 points tonight for State. Takes a bump and hits.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Shelstad launching deep. And Shelstad buries a 3.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Nice give back, and Jones flushes. Wells and Jones.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Let the games begin. It is one of the great days in sports, one of the great runs in sports, and of course the NCAA tournament. The men's tournament started officially on Tuesday night and Wednesday with the play-in games. First round is what they call them, but today is when a lot of people call in sick. This is also called vasectomy week, where men get a vasectomy, so there's an excuse to miss 3 or 4 days and not have to go to work to watch all of the games. Maybe the same as what happens when the Masters starts here in about 2 or 3 weeks. Good afternoon, David Smoak, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and this is 365 Sports. We're going to update you on the scores that the NCAA tournament has begun. Also look at tonight's game. There are 4 Big 12 teams playing this evening or later tonight. Paul and Craig, what?
I got to go back to vasectomy real quick. How many guys really get to pull that off? Because not only do you have your surgery and you're out for 3 or 4 days, your wife has to help you out, around the house and wait on you while you watch basketball. It seems, listen, I'm all supportive of it.
This is about the men.
I'm behind it 100%. I'm just wondering, is this a gamut? I mean, it's a gamut you can only run one time.
Yeah.
It's a one-time play.
Yeah. Yeah, or you could lie that you were having a vasectomy and that your buddy was going to take you there.
I do have a friend named Nate who had to have his done twice. Because apparently
the first one was a mistake.
Apparently he's very virile.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess maybe you have 2 shots at best.
There is always one in that opening session, and it looked like for the most part things were going to go somewhat according to plan. And Craig, no. Big 12's BYU, which is a team that a lot of people had going to the Sweet 16, a very good team with what Coach Pope and them have done, but they were not effective today. And how about this? They're done because Duquesne, for the first time in 55 years, has won an NCAA tournament game, beating the Cougars 71-67. The number 11 seed advances.
Yeah, congrats to everybody who had that pick initially. Congrats to the Dukes on a major win in the NCAA tournament and getting to move on to the second round. That's a big deal. That's big money for any program who's not in the top conferences. And even for those in the top conference, it's still a very big deal. So you can imagine just how much celebration is ongoing right now for Duquesne and their fan base. So, yeah, that's the first glimpse into whatever we're going to get in the form of March Madness and upsets. There will certainly be more to come, but that was the Kickstarter. And for BYU, that sucks for them. But they were a team that if their shot wasn't falling and they couldn't get stops, which they couldn't often very much get stops, and so they were highly dependent on shooting the ball well. And when they didn't, and that double whammy was the challenge, that's not something that many teams are able to overcome. And so, yeah, didn't shoot well, couldn't defend well, and give Duquesne a lot of credit. So down goes BYU, and they'll go back to the drawing board and try to figure out how they can get into the second round of this tournament. I saw a stat where it's been, since Jimmer Fredette, I think since they'd moved on in the tournament, something along those lines. I think Mark Pope, or not Mark Pope, but one of the BYU reporters had put that out there I saw in passing. So, yeah, that's obviously disappointing. I mean, you get so excited for this, and then boom, just like that, the season's – not just the game's over, the season's over. So let's see what Duquesne can do the rest of the way.
I'm sorry. I would have had a power ranking on who would have advanced the deepest among the 8 teams in the Big 12. I would have had them in the middle of the pack if they would have gone at least perhaps a round or two. That's the 11th time in 14 years. CBS just put that up. The 11th time in 14 years that 11 seed has won in the opening round in the NCAA tournament.
By the way, Duquesne's coach, Keith Ambrot, who looks like he's at a central casting of basketball coaches. Like he did the in-game interview. His voice is all raspy and northern. But at the end of the game, he drew up 2 great plays. They have a free throw shooter who shoots 94%.
Yep.
And
Grant.
Yeah, Grant, and drew up 2 plays to get him the ball and get him fouled, which sealed the game. And I've never seen – he's a guy, 94% free throw shooter. He's almost 2 feet back from the line.
He has kind of a strange delivery, which somewhat with his left hand on the ball, even as he's shooting, in case you didn't see it. There was a time earlier this year when Duquesne lost 5 consecutive games in the meat of their schedule, then lost a couple of others in and out after that, but they've won 8 straight, had to win their conference tournament to get into the tournament, and here they are now headed to this weekend.
Yeah, Jake Hatch, 13 years since BYU advanced in the tournament. Jimmer Fredette's run, the most recent success that they had enjoyed in hoops, which was getting past the first round. So, yeah, it's been 13 years. I'd seen a Jimmer Fredette video randomly like a couple days ago. I don't know if that was just kind of convenient foreshadowing. Maybe I should have paid attention like the streak's going to continue or something. But, yeah, it's been a while for them. So that's a bummer for one side, but it's all about the celebration of Duquesne and whoever else joins them in this opening weekend, but they got it started.
Well, we're going to get to the other games currently underway and also a couple of finals from earlier today, including the one we just mentioned, and then the schedule tonight. One note now, that's BYU for the Big 12. They're done. So there are 8 teams, and you hope that this is not the start of something because of how good the conference has been. So you'd like to see everybody else follow up with some nice success. In fact, 4 other teams playing, as I mentioned, and then 3 more tomorrow, including Baylor very early.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talk a lot of Big 12 because we're based in a Big 12 city and cover them. But, I don't know. I'm not, rooting for everybody in the conference to be as far as they can go. I'm not that level of pride when it comes to. I'm not SEC guy. I'm not going to turn into SEC guy of let's root for everybody. I can't do that because there's some teams I don't like and I don't want to see them win, even if it means people that are not me get more money for it. But yeah, you'd like to see the conference live up to their reputation so that at the end there's not, ACC coaches going, See, we told you they were frauds, that kind of thing. You would like to avoid that and maintain your reputation. But, yeah, I'm not going to SEC this thing up and, chant Big 12 every time a team moves on into the next round.
All right, here are some other games going on right now. Creighton is on their way. They've just completed their win against Akron, winning easily. That's now a final, 77-60. They were only up 4 at halftime. Then they had a nice big second half. Freeman for Akron scored 21. Kalbrenner had 23 for Creighton. Meanwhile, we mentioned that Duquesne game. There's Arizona. They're winning very big, trying to wrap up their game right now. The
Go
last
Big 12.
score I
Go
saw,
Big 12. No, I'm just kidding.
counts, yep. 82-63 Long Beach State. And so now Coach Monson's career at Long Beach State comes to an end. He's the one that was fired. They went into a run in the conference tournament and made the tournament.
Oh, did you hear what his AD said?
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have that, Garrett?
Foot in mouth.
Yeah, go ahead. John Fanta and many of the national writers who was AD said when he was asked about Monson being fired, who's made this late run, this is what he actually said. My belief and hope is that by doing what I did and the timing of it, they would play inspired, and that's what they did. I'm not trying to pat myself in the back, but it worked. Yes, you are. Yes, you were.
That is Hall of Fame spin right there, man.
Absolutely. And so Long Beach State is done.
This is a guy, Bobby Smitherson here,
Smitherin,
who's about to get blown to smithereens by his fans,
or join Slytherin.
Yeah, who does not understand how the transfer portal works. Apparently, that you say something like that, you clearly have got some good players on Long Beach State that can get a team to a tournament, and all of them could just go in the transfer portal tomorrow because they're mad about Dan Monson. Well, look, the answer to that question is, I thought it was best for the program. This little run has been inspiring, and I'm glad the team rallied around him, but we do have to move on instead of, I'm brilliant.
Yeah, I take credit over the coach you fired and the players who, by the way, were making shots.
Yeah.
Also, I mentioned Creighton. They've moved on. Arizona now all but moved on. Now, here's a game that Illinois is scratching and clawing against Morehead State. Late second, first half, 4 minutes left. They're up by 5, but they were down just a moment ago as the number 3 Illini trying to move on against Morehead State.
Yeah, there's a good ways to go. Whole second half to go, about 4 minutes left in the first. But, yeah, it's a tight game so far. So that's one to this is a great day, having all these random games on and getting to see teams that maybe you haven't watched much of and knowing that it's not just like a basketball game that kind of comes and goes. It's like, no, these all matter. Every single one of these matter. The tournament format is just so excellent every time this time of year rolls around. So, yeah, Illinois Morehead State on the TV. Got, Arizona Long Beach about to close out there.
Arizona's up 22 with a minute to go in that
They're about to win, so they'll move on. But, yeah, just a lot of fun, man. Love this time of year.
North Carolina was playing with their food a little bit with Wagner, the 16 seed who won earlier in the week. And now they've blown that game open up 18, just under 14 minutes left. Now, the rest of the day, there's a couple of games that are about to tip off. In fact, number 11 seed Oregon against 6 seed South Carolina. And then in about a half hour, Nevada, the number 10 seed against 7 seed Dayton. Earlier today, Tom Izzo and Michigan State played today like they did earlier in the year when they hammered Baylor, 69-51, a 9 seed beating an 8 seed. Those are always a 50-50 game, but Michigan State wins by 18. And here's what was the comment that I gave to you?
This Chris Vanini.
Chris Vanini. The win also gives Michigan State the rights to MSU and State. Those are the rules.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Like if USC played South Carolina, there are things that, or, hey, Tennessee and Texas at some point maybe with that game going on possibly this weekend.
Michigan State is one of those Jekyll and Hyde teams, not too unlike Texas, where clearly they have amazing athletes there. And Tom Izzo, he doesn't, maybe this is a dud of a class by Izzo standards because they're a 9 seed or an 8 seed and they're in the middle of the pack and, kind of stumbled their way through parts of the Big Ten season. But clearly they can explode and do some great things. Look, we saw them drill Baylor early this year.
They beat them down.
Absolutely drilled Baylor, who's a higher ranked seed than them, obviously. Beat him down really badly, but then, had some rocky times. But when you put Tom Izzo in the tournament, those things are going to, he's going to bring teams together and they're going to find their way to make a run no matter what seed he's in. So I picked Mississippi State because I'm an idiot and I feel foolish to bet against Tom Izzo. But there you go. First round showing that everything that happens before today doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, there's a couple of times in recent years where they have bowed out early because we've made fun of Zach whenever that's happened. Our friend Zach, who's a Michigan State fan. So we made sure to point that out when they lost like in the first round or whatever. But it doesn't happen often. And, they're very good come tournament time typically. I saw this from Chris Solari. Extend Tom Izzo, and he had his controversial comments earlier this week, so he better, good for him to go win, and that way can keep talking. But by the way,
he beat a Autonomy 5 team, so he wants more of those in the tournament. He just beat one of them out of the gate.
I saw from Reddit college basketball or maybe Reddit college football today, Tom Izzo backing up his mid-majors needless bids by beating a small team out of the American Southeast. A team from a small conference in the American Southeast.
That's an apt description. But, Tom Izzo is from Chris Solari. Today extended his NCAA tournament record with a 17th victory as the lower-seeded team.
Wow.
Also 11-1 all-time against the Izzo is 9-0 all-time against SEC foes in the tournament. Michigan State as a whole is 11-1 all-time. And the only loss Michigan State's had against an SEC team in the tournament was in 1978 when I guess
that was the year before they won the national
was to
title.
Kentucky, yeah. And that was Magic Johnson came back, and they go on to win the national title.
Yep.
So I thought that was a cool note. That was the one time, and they won the title. They won the title in '79 the year after that. But yeah, he beats teams when he's the underdog, and that's a really impressive mark. And Michigan State moving on.
All right, now here are the games, the schedule tonight, including. Right as we end the show, Texas playing Colorado State. Colorado, I think it's going to say Colorado. It's Colorado State. That's my fault. Tonight, they start right before we end. Colorado State winning earlier in the week. Iowa State and South Dakota State at 6:35, and a couple of late tips, Texas Tech, NC State, the Wolfpack against the Red Raiders, who I saw where Washington, their big, tall drink of water, was warming up a little bit. Whether or not he plays or not remains to be seen, but maybe he will be ready. And then KU, without Kevin McCullough, against Samford, a team that does fill it up from the outside in an intriguing game at 9. And speaking of Kansas, Bill Self, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Bill Self earlier today
that's a long quote.
Said, I'm not a social media guy much, but since announcing that Kevin McCullough would not play in the tournament, I've been told that the situation has been portrayed inaccurately. What he goes on to say is defending why McCullough's not going to play, not saying there was a little bit of a flare-up that, McCullough's shutting it down. He wants to protect himself for the NBA draft or whatever else, which is so silly and so lazy. That doesn't mean people don't have a right to their opinion. But Self shutting that down today with a comment, and he doesn't get on social media, but felt like he needed to at this particular time.
Well, that's why social media can be a good tool. Hear it from the horse's mouth, and there, I'm sure, is probably a comment right after that's like, yeah, whatever, coach. Like, after he typed all that, I was like, yeah, whatever. Still going to believe what I want to believe, which is that Kevin McCullough's, selfish and doing what he wants to do. But, yeah, I saw a lot of that kind of trashing of him and some pushback, and so I think Bill Self did the right thing and putting a statement out there, whether people want to believe it or not. I don't think he's got much of a reason to lie, quite frankly. I mean, it is what it is. And so hopefully that clears the air a little bit. And if McCullough, if that's all well and true, and I have no reason to believe that it's not, then, hopefully people back off a little bit. But I know he didn't make many friends when he left Lubbock, and that kind of created an army against him to begin with. So when you're as high profile as he is, you've got some enemies, and so I think that's some of what was going on.
Tech had him and Shannon.
Yeah.
Who's still playing right now for Illinois despite the accusation earlier.
I think that everybody was reading some annoyance in Bill's voice and some annoyance in Hunter Dickinson's voice about the injuries and things. And Kansas isn't used to this much hardship in a season. They're not used to it. Bill Self's not used to it. He's one of the greatest coaches in the country, but they're not used to it. So I wouldn't be surprised as you go in to play a team that bombs threes, something you don't really do well. So if you get behind the 8 ball against Samford, and they're hitting their threes in that buckyball, it's going to be hard. So I can imagine there's annoyance, but to be a Kevin McCullough who, he was trying to play throughout the regular season. He came back a couple different times and sat down a couple different times. I do think we probably read a little bit more into it, as like a populace of, oh man, he sounds annoyed. Yeah, he's annoyed. His best scorer is out. Like, that's annoying. So, whatever reason it's for.
So what did Amanda,
Lady Jayhawk?
Yeah, what did she say about this? What was her original? Because I think Rami probably didn't. I wasn't so sure about McCullough in the decision, was he?
Rami was initially on the side of
he's shutting it down.
He's shutting it down. Amanda was a little bit between the views. She needed more evidence. If there was a presidential debate, she would have had to go longer. She'd have asked follow-up questions. And then they've come around.
Did she get the evidence today?
Once King Bill spoke.
Yeah.
That was kind of
who she wanted out.
Well, she was mad.
Yeah. You said also they're not used to being 10 losses as they enter the tournament.
They don't
do that.
Just as a university, they're not used to this kind of stress.
I think that's why everybody's keen to go and start speculating on there being a major problem because it's so rare. It's like, oh my God, rather than it just being like, oh no, there's injuries and just kind of bad luck. It's like, what the program must be falling apart from the inside.
Self has lost control.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
I
no
think
discipline.
that's some of it because it's just such a rare occurrence to see them struggle like that. But.
And I can't remember. It was the C.J. Moore that we had last week.
Yep.
We had him on talking about it. I knew that they had, the two guys that transferred out before the season started that were freshman recruits. They had Arterio Morris, who was supposed to be their big transfer, and maybe not even their sixth man. He probably was supposed to start eventually for them this year and was going to help that rotation. Obviously get in a lot of trouble because of the rape charge and be dismissed from the team. And then they had Nick Timberlake, who has just not panned out for them. So there's 4 misses, but really you have to look at it as their roster has seven holes on it because they took their NCAA penalty all at once this year because Bill Self thought when that came down, because Arterio Morris hadn't happened yet, Nick Timberlake was another year in the program. None of those guys had decided, I'm going to go. One of them went to 2 different spots, by the way, after he left Kansas. He didn't think he needed it. And so here they are, 7 different guys down of what they thought, or 6 and one that didn't hit as hard.
Welcome to the real world.
I mean,
as much as we clown, or people in general can kind of clown on the NCAA sometimes their punishments, to your point, it mattered.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, the penalties mattered to some extent. So, yeah, that's something that we're kind of like, we're going to slap on the wrist, right? And I know Kansas didn't necessarily feel that way, but in general, that's kind of the sentiment.
It's a slap on the wrist in that, a year from now, they'll be completely through it.
Or
right.
who knows?
But right now, they're
but
on
now
the
they're
ledge
feeling it,
because they don't understand this struggle.
Since 2000, since the 2000 season ended, they went 24-10. They had back-to-back years of 10 losses. Roy Williams still has some years left in a national title, I think. At some point, no, they lost in the national title. But since 2000, Kansas has lost 10 games 5 times in the last 25 years, including this year. Self had a couple of times earlier, 5 or 6 years ago, 7, 8, 10 years ago, and then those ones I mentioned with Williams. So they're not used to it, and they're used to winning and going deep, and the expectations are high. They start, of course, later on tonight. So now we have discussed a lot of things about college football, the playoff, the payoff, the revenue sharing. But in basketball, sometimes people get confused a little bit about if you win, how much do you get? It's not individually, but it's with the conference. So here's Dan Wetzel. Washington State and Oregon State will split about $2 million in tournament units from every win, and today Arizona had one, from Colorado, Oregon, and Arizona. So every time one of those teams wins a game, like Arizona won today, they'll split. Those two, Washington State, Oregon State, will split $2 million. So they get $1 million out of that, and then how many more that they may get along the way.
I still, I get it, and yet it's just hard for me to wrap my head around how these teams are going and winning, and somehow it all goes to Oregon State and Washington State. Is that not freaking weird? I get they're leaving, but
because they left in the
but they're still
night.
playing.
I know.
They're
getting some of it.
No, they're getting, but I mean, it's still just kind of just weird the way it's sort of framed of. They're leaving, but they're basically leaving all of the riches behind as they go along in this tournament. And yeah, they get some of it, but yeah, it's sort of weird that's how it worked out, but it's incredibly beneficial, obviously, for those two who otherwise would be absolutely screwed beyond belief.
It's a divorce settlement.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's the brilliance of George Kliavkoff.
Sure, yeah.
I mean,
one other note about units.
The guy got killed in a divorce. By the way, Colorado has Florida, which is going to be a really tough opening matchup, but Florida lost their big man. He had that really gruesome leg injury the other day, so it'll be interesting to see. I think that game will probably be in the 80s. I think Colorado and Florida will be interesting to watch.
Speaking of units, this is from Pete Thamel. Both Grambling and Wagner won their play-in games, and now, of course, they have, including Wagner tonight, Wagner right now against North Carolina. The value of a unit in the NCAA men's tournament is just over $340,000. The value changes by the year, and I think it's over a 6-year rotation, Mack Rhodes once told us, means a payout of nearly $2 million for the Northeast Conference and also the SWAC over the next 6 years by Wagner and Grambling, winning at least earlier this week in what is called the First Four. Good for them. They need that money, and they getting it.
That's big money, and hopefully there's still that pathway that's feasible for them in the years to come. They're not squeezed out or pushed down further the line. more of a disadvantageous position because of the expansion of the tournament. So those are the stories that people love this time of year, and yet we have certain segments of the fandom that are more worried about a TV rating for some reason. I don't understand that. I think that story is way better than being able to say that so-and-so, 8 teams are in this round or whatever money we made from this or how many eyeballs were on it. I mean, that's cool stuff on top of the main dish, the main ice cream. And so, I think that's really weird, and I'm glad that for those schools, they get that opportunity and they get what is obviously some very important money coming their way, because beyond that, how much are you making? How much is really coming in? Tournament is a big deal for a lot of programs out there, so that's cool, and see how many teams can join them along the way here.
Grambling was fun to watch last night, man. That was a really fun game to watch.
I love that. That good for them, and now they will most likely be dismissed, but at the same time, I hope not. I'd love to see chaos. Now, one other college basketball note, I don't have that for Garrett to put up, but Rob Lanier out at SMU. Jeff Goodman of the Field of 68 saying that from what he's being told, SMU is going to go big game fishing. Money, money, money. Explaining making the move with Lanier after just a couple of years, and maybe the name that he puts up in his tweet, he just throws it up there, Eric Musselman, who's at Arkansas. They had a very disappointing year as a possibility, but there's the note with SMU moving into a great basketball conference year in and year out with the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Well, he's a coach with a lot of, I'll just call it sass. Energy.
How do you spell that?
SASS.
Okay. Sass. Okay.
Sass.
He's sassy.
Sassy. He could get. That would be interesting. I mean, if they can go. Here's the other thing. If they do that, what I wonder is, does Arkansas respond in kind when it comes time to hire a football coach next year and go try and get rid of Lashley?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if Sam Pittman's not able to get the job done, but fortunate for Rob Lanier, and I understand though the SMU making the move and making the splash with the announcement on day one of the tourney, letting it be known they're going to be active, and everybody knows they've got money, and now we all know they're heading to the ACC, so that puts them on a different pedestal than they were on before. It makes that job, you would think, a lot more attractive. They're gonna money it up and use that ACC backing to, I'm sure, get what's a really good head coach. And Musselman would make some sense. I mean, as far as making a splash hire, I don't know how much Arkansas would fend that off, because that would be, quite the move to go from Arkansas to SMU. I feel like people would be like, wait a second.
Arkansas has, even those, remember, they just played Baylor, was the year they won the national title. That was one of the teams that, in fact, they may have played Baylor better than everybody other than that Villanova game early in the tournament. So they got some basketball swagger, so that would be interesting, as you said, going to SMU.
Yeah, but it just seems like that would not be a move that you'd necessarily predict given the way the leagues are stacking up and all that. But, that would be a great landing spot for somebody, because you're going to have big backing, and you've got the ACC as well, as I said. So that changes that job entirely, depending on, years down the road what that looks like. But in the immediate, that's a much better gig than it's ever been before, that SMU basketball job. So, that'll be fun to watch.
Halftime, it's Illinois leading Morehead State by 39-38. Also, the game winding down with still 8 minutes left. North Carolina up comfortably on Wagner, 70-50. Oregon and South Carolina halfway through the first half. That game is tied at 13.
I have a story that came down in the last few minutes. It's not big breaking news or anything like that, but it is college basketball related in a sense that this has sort of been teased as a possibility because of just the way things were going. But the NBA is shutting down the G League Ignite team after this season, which was their developmental squad of basically the guys who didn't want to go to college and they wanted to just go ahead and get paid, but they couldn't go straight to the NBA because they were too young. So they go to the G League and join the Ignite, which is like that, that team for all of these big time
prospects. Is
prospects.
it like their IMG Academy at the G League?
Basically, yeah, that's what it is. And so that's the team that had like all the elite draft guys who decided not to go to college, and there were some veterans sprinkled across it as well. That's only been running since 2020, but now they are not going to be a part of the G League any longer. So part of this has to do with NIL is the point that I'm getting at, is that now some of these guys who weren't getting money before can now go to Arkansas or SMU or Baylor or Texas or wherever and make money through NIL, and you couldn't do that before. So you'd go to the G League team and make your tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds. I don't know what they make.
It was 6 figures.
Okay, yeah, 6 figures.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot. And then now you can be the star at Tennessee instead and make 6 or 7 figures. So I think that's very notable when you think about some of the stars that did not play in college basketball these last 3-4 years that now will probably be back to playing college basketball. So interesting timing on the release of that, but good news for college basketball to be sure.
Yeah, that means some more players, maybe as many as 10 or 12 of them, will be playing in college for at least another year. Now, we like and have different ways of people looking at NIL. I always thought that kid from Louisiana, DeColdis Crawford, I think his name was, who went to Nebraska and had like an air conditioning company. He's not there anymore, but that to me is when I love the uniqueness of what NIL makes sense.
Kansas, with the win over Texas, and the young man's name, who I'm forgetting, had the Applebee's commercial, the local Applebee's commercial.
Oh, the kid who caught the pudgy tight end.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think he'd rather be called by his name, but I can't remember it either. So the pudgy tight end.
Go ahead.
He got the Applebee's deal after he caught the pass against Texas, and so that was one of the early examples of like this is just what they drew up NIL to be. But DeColdis Crawford was another example to your point.
Well, here's one that is. I thought this came from yesterday. And I got an email from Tim Klein, who's from the Zeno Group. So Jeremy Roach at Duke, and Dariana Littlepage Buggs of Baylor are getting an NIL deal. Have an NIL deal now with Raid Bug Spray.
That's great.
And there's actually a video. We can't play the video, but there you are with those two with the name of Roach and Buggs.
Yeah, no, I liked that a lot. That's great. Yeah, Craig, that was very good.
You want some data?
I don't know why it popped in my. I've never thought about that in my life, but it just popped into my head. So I guess the commercial worked.
You want to know some facts about bugs? I'm not going to do
the player from Baylor or the actual.
No, I'm talking
insects?
about like bugs, insects.
I don't know, but Jared Casey, a.k.a. Pudgy Tight End, is the guy who got the Applebee's deal after
Jared,
beating Texas.
I apologize. That was totally, I didn't mean it that way, but you hell of a catch.
And got it by accident. But look, he's pudgy because he goes to Applebee's, let's face it. But, I mean, they have all-you-can-eat boneless wings. Like, that's how you get pudgy. I would know. He said that after the game. It's like, so what are you going to do? He's like, oh, me and my folks will go to Applebee's. And
Right.
Yeah.
So you just had like the biggest moment in over a decade in Kansas football history. And of all the places you could go, and it's not that far to Kansas City to go to places that are like, hey, let's get a great steak or some barbecue or something fancy. And he's like, no. I want 2-for-1
Applebee's
quesadillas.
I just love that. Now, all the AC with the coldest with his name, but
that's cool. Yeah.
14 million Americans reported seeing roaches in their home last year. That's 4 million more than the number of people that watched the 2023 NCAA tournament.
Oh, interesting.
Man, that's something. I'll shut it down. I will shut it down if
Roaches
I see one. I'm blowing up.
Yeah.
I mean, to the point where I can't even stay in the place where I live because it would just like knock you out with that smell.
So, BU Big 12 with Patrick on the chat room says, doesn't Raid kill roaches and bugs? And he says, listen, so here's what I would do. If I were Raid and I'm doing this promotion with roach and bugs, my thing would be like there's a can of Raid in their house and they like leave.
Yeah,
there you go.
Run away from.
I'm going to send Tim Klein that idea. I'll give you your idea.
We'll clip this and say it.
I hope they've already come up with the plan. They're not just like starting today of like now we'll come together with our ideas. But
I just Don Drapered that crap.
Yeah.
New plan.
Yeah, that's like Craig's Super 2.
Yeah,
trademark it now.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, for Dariana, Littlepage Buggs, and for what was the other name?
Jeremy Roach.
Jeremy Roach. Yeah, I was thinking Freddie Roach, the whole boxing trainer. I was like, I know that's not right. But Jeremy Roach, that's cool. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, you got that from being a great basketball player and just the fortune of your name being in line. But that's what the real NIL idea was originally. That was what it was supposed to be. And so it's obviously mutated into something else. But that's cool to see those. And there's a lot of things I think that happen across the country that we're not aware of because they're so localized when it comes to NIL. But I do love those things that pop up, or it's like the video game, where Quinn Ewers and all these other guys have apparently signed sponsorship deals. So we'll see them probably involved in the bare minimum ads online and things. So, I mean, I couldn't imagine it growing up that you'd see that. You couldn't buy jerseys with players' names on it. You had to fill out all of the names on the NCAA video game. And the fact that we've gotten to a point where that's no longer the case is, great progress, even though it took way too long for a lot of these college athletes. So that's awesome.
Both Baylor teams play tomorrow, by the way. Baylor men play early on against Colgate. The women will play at 5 against Vanderbilt. And if they happen to win that game, they're going to play the winner of Virginia Tech and Marshall, and one of the best players in the country, Elizabeth Kitley, will not play. Mac Rhodes kind of brought that up to us yesterday when he was in the studio, or Tuesday, will not be in the tournament. Apparently a torn ACL. Kenny Brooks, the head coach at Virginia Tech, making that announcement today. He also, by the way, a little note, he's also up for the job, or at least a front-runner target-type guy for the job at Kentucky women's basketball job. So that's a tough loss for Virginia Tech. They're pretty good.
And like at the end of the year too, and that's such a long rehab.
She averaged 22 and 11 per game for Virginia Tech. So.
I hope for her she can get back quick. I mean, those things are tough, man. And it's a lot easier now than it used to be. A torn ACL was essentially a career ender for a long time, or one that changed your career. But modern medicine has come very far, but it's still a really long and difficult rehab.
Yeah, I think when we look at the stories of headlines about injuries, particularly at the pro level, we're just like, oh well, they got millions of dollars. Who cares? You can get the best doctors and all of that. You still feel for people, of course, but I think just sometimes we forget the fact of like all of the behind the scenes and like the depression that can come with that, and the constant pain and all things you're going through. Those rehabs are hard, man. Even if the medicine's getting better and the rehab times are getting shorter, that can still screw with your mind as much as anything. So yeah, definitely good luck to her. And who was there? Somebody else we were talking about the other day that got injured. But yeah, the two Baylor players that had to retire, medically retire because of injuries.
Linemen, Emery and Boykins.
Yeah, so it's just feels like there's been a lot of that news lately. But yeah, she'll be fine, but that's just unfortunate timing. Obviously, that sucks.
She came back for a 5th year. And so I don't know about whether or not there's an opportunity based on who knows anymore about eligibility.
Well, she only has 3 years left, right?
3-time ACC Player of the Year. That's how good she is. She will miss the tournament, and they have Marshall to open it up. All right, let's break. We'll come back in a little bit. Remember yesterday's news? Baylor will honor the 2013 and 14 Big 12 championship football teams. There was a guy that led them. His name is Bryce Petty, the quarterback, 2-time Big 12 champion quarterback, will join us on what this means to him and his former teammates. And this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Robinson, Texas. Dr. Steve Childress is my dentist, and I am happy that I get to say that because he has been amazing for me in what I needed when around the time of COVID, when I decided it was time for me to look for another dentist because of the other one was out and ill and could not do much. Well, he did. He set me up. He has done a lot of work within my dental work, within my mouth, with a crown, 2 of them, with 2 teeth being pulled, with a bridge for my front teeth to make sure that they stay together, and then also a root canal or 3, among everything else, and including, of course, the minimal part that you need to do is the teeth cleaning. His staff is amazing, huge company of what they do, not just him as a dentist, but many others, dental hygienists and more. If you want the best in service for your dental work, Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Let the journey to financial brilliance begin with Genco's limited time offers. Max your earnings with a Kasasa cash account and get paid monthly with a 4.25 APY. That's $425 annually. Then invest in a 13-month share certificate and earn 4.9 APY. That's $529. Earn cash and outshine the rest. At Genco, we offer you the sun and the moon. Kasasa based on average daily balance of $10,000. Certificate based on $10,000 investment. See GencoFCU.org for details. NCUA.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is a premier elite life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Offering over 50 group exercise classes every week, including boot camp, bar, silver sneakers, and 10 cycling classes with morning and evening classes available. New state-of-the-art bikes that allow you to compete against yourself with a screen monitoring your speed, miles, resistance, and power. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, Alex Botch, and Nathan Roach, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow, losing inches in weight the right way. There's a kids club included with your membership, plus sauna and tanning bed. 16 tennis courts, plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro Britt Coleman and assistant junior pro Kenna. Adult tennis lessons and clinics with Blake, and the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Thurman. Visit the website at wacotennis.com next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Baylor football. Big 12 began back in 1996, and there was a stretch of a bad stuff. I mean, it was not good. And then they turned the corner. You could see it happen in 2010, and then won it all in 13 and 14. The quarterback of that team, Bryce Petty, joins us now on 365 Sports. It's been a while for us to get Bryce Petty, who was a star. And Bryce, we're Paul Catalina. Craig just left for Baylor practice. They've started spring drills. Hey, thanks for your time. What has been the reaction from you or teammates about Baylor announcing they will honor both of those teams in November of this year?
Hey, gents. Man, as always, thanks for having me. But, getting right into it, Smoak, as you always do. I think there's a lot of excitement. I think guys are certainly excited to one, just to be back in the same room together, celebrating a lot of good memories, but also to commemorate great teams, great players, great coaches, and just an exciting time to be a Baylor Bear.
Bryce, what you guys built, and in a relatively short period of time, before the portal, before NIL, before all those things, was really impressive. When along the way, when you won those 2 titles, I mean, obviously you're coming off of RG3 and a good year with Nick Florence, but when did you guys know this was a team that was gonna shake things up?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've actually talked about this before. There was a pretty vivid memory, in spring workouts that year going into 2013 that we just felt different. I think coming off the Holiday Bowl win, the way that we won against the national opponent in UCLA, just dominated in the trenches on the run game. special teams, just kind of especially defense too, all facets of the game. It instilled a lot of confidence in us, and I think that was the time where we knew, okay, when we can dominate physically, the points show up, and that was absolutely a direct reflection of Coach Briles and Coach Kaz and what they had been instilling, in that program, since I walked on campus and really since they walked on campus too. It was to change the mentality and make you believe not only that you belong there, but you could dominate. And then obviously, that shows up in recruiting too, because guys want to be a part of something like that. It's what we've always said, it's much bigger than yourself, but more importantly, to put a stamp and a legacy to your tenure, when you put on the helmet and the jersey.
So I was going to ask you this, just kind of tongue in cheek. If I would have told you that of the two teams, that one was going to throw the ball 52 times and the other was going to throw it 13, and I know you guys knew earlier you could kind of beat them up a little bit, physicality. If I would have said 52 for passes and another team threw 13, would you have ever thought it was UCLA that was chunking it all over the field?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I don't think, especially if you look back at any of the highlights. But that's what's crazy, Smoak. I mean, when you do truly go back and watch our tape, and I've always said this, our pass game was always set up on the run. And what I loved about Coach Briles loved to run it down your throat, but when it was working, he loved to pound it. There was just he loved to dominate, in the trenches. And so, for us to throw it 13 times and deliver a win the way that we did, going back to your question, no, I would have never thought that'd be us. But I know that from the mentality side, we'd always love to be, in that column in terms of winning the run game.
Well, that's the thing about that offense. That's how you worked the middle of the field. Not that you didn't run to the outside, but because everything else was spread out so wide, you guys didn't throw a lot. Jordan Iver was one of the best tight ends in the country, and he had like 8 catches. He wasn't. You weren't throwing the ball over there. It was such a different offense.
Off he didn't have 9.
Yeah. I'm sure he's probably going out there going, Bryce, I am open every time.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, and that was the thing. I mean, we really changed. And it's a big credit to our coaching staff, but we really changed the dynamic of our offense. If you guys remember, especially like 2010, we played the Houston Bowl, the Texas Bowl against Illinois. There, everything was much more lateral. We were wide in terms of how we wanted to run the ball and just spread the ball out. It was always kind of sideline to sideline, and then all of a sudden, then we came back in the off season and our first game out, Griff has more touchdowns than incompletions. And we're figuring out that one, we're faster than you, we're stronger than you. And we're going to set it up, basically going, the quickest, way to get to A to B is a straight line, right? So, we just want to isolate people. And that was the unique thing about that offense, to where now everybody talks about an RPO. Shoot, man, we didn't even know it was called a run pass option when we were doing it. We just started to do that and found so much success going right up the middle. And so it did. It was a very unique time to really set the tone on a lot of different aspects of the game when we did. But starting with Griff and Ganaway and those guys, it was fun to watch that just transformation from one year to the next to be so drastic from a game plan wise and what we're really trying to accomplish.
And then Shock, who had that body that was perfect for running the ball between the tackles and kind of hiding behind those 300-plus pounders. And, of course, it makes me always think, when I think about the Baylor running game, even with what we said about UCLA, is, Bryce, what you did in the comeback to beat TCU 61-58. It was, there were throws and touchdowns or whatever, but it was the run game that you just kept getting 8 to 12 or 15 yards and stopping the clock to move the chains.
Well, Shock will forever be one of my favorite guys to line up next to. He might have been, 5'6", 185, and he might punch me next time he sees me for saying this on here. I can't remember how he wasn't big, but he ran big. And again, like the mentality that we had, for those guys up front, and then with Shock behind it, it was. I want to dominate you. I want to run over you. But it was. I mean, that drive post, and it. I hate to say this pick six. I'd love to say it was somebody else's fault. That was all my dang fault. But to be in that scenario down 21, just going off a pick six, and then we go run whatever it was, 6-7 runs in a row and go get 60 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did. It was like, man, we're fine, and that's the whole thing about football. It's battling, the ups and downs and the mentality that you have, and the composure that you have as a team to say that we're fine. And that was what, was really fun about those couple of years there that I was blessed to be able to play and lead those guys or be a part of the leadership team on those teams. But when you look across the sideline at one another and down the huddle and just say, "Man, we got it," and to know that you can score on any given play, it definitely changes the whole dynamic of the game.
Bryce, I don't want to get into the weeds of everything that went on after that because it's been well talked about, but at least from the perspective of you guys, is there a sense of relief that now – some chapters can close, some guys can be honored who brought a lot of attention to the university and a lot of built this program back to, more than it ever had been. Is there relief on your sense in that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely a conversation that, whether it's a beer conversation down the road, I don't know. I mean, I hope guys get to really express how they feel about everything that happened, because there's so many conversations and clickbait and stuff of people that weren't in those rooms to know what and who Coach really was and who our team really was and what we embodied in our character. There was a lot of things that we weren't able to no one asked. No one asked me. No one asked us. Is there a problem here? Is there an issue or whatnot? And to your point, you're right. There's no point to get back in the weeds, but there is a sense of relief in terms of just what those teams were able to accomplish in that era where you're coming off of the Texases and the OUs and who is Baylor and, the Jim Rome. I'll never forget the scrubby little Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many things stacked up against us, and to do what we did with the teams that we did and the coaches that we had, that is absolutely from the top down a mentality that takes a long time to build up, instilling confidence in a program that really was. I mean, Baylor was getting scheduled for a homecoming game.
Yep.
And it's no knock on the teams before us. It was that was the Baylor program. And so what Coach Rawls did and Coach Kaz and everybody that had everything to do with that whole change of confidence, the fan base, the team itself. It's absolutely great to be celebrated. And I hope that everybody that was a part of that gets to relive those moments and not forget and not to have it stripped away and not to have anybody else say anything else other than, this was a fun time to be a Baylor Bear and a Baylor fan. Again, just to get to hug on everybody's neck that went through the trenches and couldn't say anything, and so I'm just really appreciative of the opportunity to be on the sideline with my teammates, and I hope every coach that was a part of that's on the sideline. I hope everybody that in the fans, in the stadiums that were true fans of those teams get to celebrate with us.
I remember Jordan Niver reaching out to us about a year ago or so about the 10th year anniversary of what would have been 13. And honestly, there was, unfortunately, because of a lawsuit that was going on that was not over, they couldn't quite do anything yet, even though maybe some thought they were just trying to push it down the road. I don't think they were, and they had to wait for that to be over with. But my question is, Jordan kind of reached out and said, hey, were there other teammates that you have stayed in touch with that kind of wondered, hey, do you think they're ever going to actually be able to do this? How much of a conversation was that?
Yeah, we all did, right?
Sure.
And again, it wasn't anything for, the name on the back of our jersey as much as it was what we fought for the front of our jersey, and that's where I think sometimes guys feel alienated in terms of even coming back, Mac and Coach Aranda has done such a good job to make us feel welcome, but it's still a weird energy sometimes, and so all of us, at one point or time or another have asked, man, do they even remember, around people? Do people still talk about it, or is it something that, people do want to have a book into and close that chapter because of, everything that happened and the unfortunate part of all of and everything that went down is that you had, great teams and great times in Waco get stripped from the good memory part, and so I think a lot of guys are seem to be, as I've got a couple of texts already, but seems to be pretty excited about getting us back, on the sideline together to again, just commemorate great team, coaches and fans. So,
well, Phil Bennett's never void of any kind of an opinion. I texted him last night about whether he had heard, and he had, and I said, "Are you going to make it?" He goes, "They damn sure need to invite us." And he still does a segment with us during football season and also during other times of the year, and he still talks about when he says Baylor, Bryce, he says we, which is awesome.
Right.
Even though he's been other places, but he says we. So I do think that this could open up that door and a little bit more of a welcoming, hey, let's do this and come together, because I think that's valuable for everybody involved.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. It's hard to not talk about those 2 seasons and not have a smile on your face and you get around the round table and you get to celebrate the big wins, the big moments, and again, I mean, just for what Baylor came from, as all of us were coming through school and getting recruited and being on that rise, the best part is to get to look back and see the legacy. And I think that's the hardest part of that is sometimes you look back and you don't see it, and so if this is that door opening, I'm all for it. Shoot, Coach Bennett, if you're listening, you can ride with me. And I'd love to share war stories with, Coach Bennett's one of the best storytellers out there. And so, but again, just to be around those guys on that field, knowing what we sacrificed, knowing, again, how much time and effort and energy we spent into trying to create what we were inevitably, lucky enough to see, is I think the most important and the coolest part about being, having the opportunity to get around the guys again. So.
Bryce Petty, former Baylor quarterback, was the quarterback on those back-to-back Big 12 championship teams with us on 365 Sports.
Bryce, if you drive him down, you're responsible for getting him home too. So that's a big task you're taking on. All right, the elephant in the room of this though is they're playing TCU when they enter this game, and KB's over there, and Carlton Buckles is over there, Kaz is over there,
someone's on the Baylor sideline.
Oh, and Gary Patterson's on the Baylor sideline. Do you feel like you'll be stepping into the twilight zone a little bit?
It's going to be. It was part of our conversation that we had, and Bryce Hager brought up just such a good point, because there's obviously 2 sides to that story, right? It's one side being that, hey, I don't want anybody to feel excluded or in light of, or hey, we're doing this knowing that you guys are there. Bryce Hager was like, dude, it's an opportunity to celebrate with them. And so it was such a good coin and something I'm really glad that he brought up. And then inevitably we ended up doing it on the TCU game, because it's a chance for those guys to be on the sideline and be a part of it with us. And if we could have every coach, training staff, everybody to be on that sideline, I want to extend that invite, because there was so many great people around that campus that helped us get to where we were. It was always a team effort, and to your point, Coach Bennett says it was a we thing. It was always a we thing, and everybody sacrificed a lot to find the success that we did there. So I love that Coach Kaz and Buckles and KB are going to be on that sideline, and quite frankly, I love that the GP is going to be on our sideline. It is a very interesting time that I don't think you can script it any better, for entertainment purposes only, is I guess what they say. but I hope everybody gets to truly, celebrate and to not have any of the, negative light on what is meant to be just a really cool time and celebration.
Bryce, I don't know exactly how it all will happen or everybody or who all will be invited. Obviously, the other gorilla in the room, the 800-pound gorilla, is Coach Bryles. When was the last time, if you don't mind, that you had a chance to text or share anything with him?
I talked to him about a month ago, trying to get a dang tea time with him.
Oh, at Horseshoe Bay?
I heard that wallet comes out with him on the tee box, and so naturally, he made up an excuse as to being able to duck out of that tea time. But no, we still catch up. It's hard to think about being on the sideline in that moment and him not be there. I really hope he is. I really, really do. I hope that the Baylor family welcomes him. I hope that, and quite frankly, everybody in that stadium welcomes him, because what he did in that rivalry, what he did for us naturally, and for the Big 12 and for college football, he deserves to be on that sideline. There's no doubt about it. I'll go to fight for him if it's something that we, again, like I said, we just weren't ever able to talk about what we knew of. And the what we really did have in that locker room. And so it's not meant to get back, in the past, but it is meant to say that we can change a lot of perceptions if we just if people would have some grace and be willing to open an ear to what we knew of, as our team and as our coach that led us to some incredible seasons, incredible heights that I don't think a whole lot of Baylor fans thought that we could ever get to.
Yeah, Bryce Petty, again, talk about, in the story's been told, the patience of waiting well over 1,000 days to be able to start, because RG3 and then Nick Florence, and it was such an amazing time. And I know you can't really, I don't think you could answer this, but and maybe 2 or 3, 4, 5 years ago, we asked you this about, with today's rules, the transfer portal, do you think that pipeline of quarterbacks and patience and waiting for your moment, because obviously it worked out for you and for Baylor, do you feel, would that have been tested more than ever before?
Well, I absolutely think it would have. I mean, I think it'd be crazy not to say that it didn't. Everybody goes in there, not to sit, but to play, right? I have my own opinions on how it's all come about. And the NIL and the portal and where it sits today. But I think that, it would have definitely been a conversation with me and the family just to know, do I need to go somewhere else, right? But the beautiful thing is I don't have that luxury. The luxury I have is back-to-back Big 12 championship because of the teams that we had on the field. And, the good Lord had a plan and a purpose through that. I learned a lot through it, which is why I'm such an advocate for guys to graduate before they get in the portal. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that come, through the sacrifice and commitment and honestly to be patient, and so there's a lot of those strengths that come from not always getting what you want. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that, and especially with some of the younger generations, not to be on a soapbox, but when you get what you want all the time, and you don't get to savor the beautiful parts about, the times where you weren't given it. So, all that to be said, it's definitely a fun conversation to have, but I couldn't think of being in anything but a Baylor Bear. So
when the official announcement or when you first heard about it, you've kind of given your emotions about what that all meant and to you and former teammates. What was your first thought when you heard they're going to honor both teams?
I really had two thoughts, right? I mean, obviously there was excitement. And then my second thought was who's going to be there, just because there was so much that went into those teams, and the way that everything has, transpired over the last couple of years. Again, it was meant to say, hey, look, I am absolutely more than excited to celebrate with my teammates and obviously the opportunity to recognize those guys. But it wasn't just, players on the field. There was leadership from within. There was, Coach Coz and Coach Bryles and all those guys. So But I think overall, it was just, going back to your question of relief, not that there was it's finally happening, but I think it was a sense of just joy to know that we're not kind of the redheaded stepchild, I guess, if that makes sense. That it's just a blanket pulled over us, and meant to be something in the past that we can't talk about. That's I think where most of that joy and excitement was about. It kind of makes you feel like Baylor is still family.
I can get it. Obviously it hurts. It hurts kind of being forgotten.
Bryce, I had to have some plumbing work done at my house, and Kelvin Palmer was the plumber who came to my house. And
you're kidding. Love it.
No. I'll tell you.
Was your door tall enough for him to get through?
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
And also, when Kelvin walks through the door, I was like, wait a minute. So it was very surreal. But we had a conversation about that, and I know that that's how he felt. Was like, there's other things we can celebrate and talk about here, that these guys, we all need to be together again. So, I think it's just awesome, because you're not obviously the first person that we've heard that from, but this was just a year ago. I remember him coming in, and we had that conversation. I was like, that definitely you can just feel that. And so it's going to, I can't, the party that you guys are going to throw is going to be huge. I don't even want to see the bills for it.
Well, I heard it's on Smoak's tab, so
I'll be there. I will be there. I will absolutely be. I can't wait to see you. And I still refer to you as a young man. And get ready for OU. Yeah. Get ready for OU.
Hey, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get ready for tequila.
Hey, what do you think about the conference being what it is now, with Texas and OU leaving, and then everybody else that's come in? There'll be 8 new teams with Texas and OU on their way out.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be just Saturdays in general too. I mean, the whole shakeup. It's not just Texas and OU in the Big 12. With ACC and the Pac-12 being just decimated. What I would love to see is truly this not a super conference per se, but just something to where it makes more sense. I mean, I hate it for some of the other sports that's playing on weekdays, and that's, again, it's, there's so many things that I feel like sometimes we just make way too much or way too complicated. But, the beautiful thing about the Big 12 and the SEC and the ACC and the Pac-12 and the conferences that we've grown up to know and to love, the no part is the rivalry. The no part is that you're wearing a Texas hoodie at school and I'm wearing an OU hoodie, or it's a TCU and a Texas hoodie, and there's just this natural banter that comes from rivalries. And I hate that that's starting to get shaken up over money, which I feel like is always what it's about. But it's going to be, I can't tell you if it's better for the sport yet, until we kind of see what this playoff picture looks like. But where college football is at is definitely different than where we were, and it's crazy to say 10 years ago, but where we were at 10 years ago, it's totally different space. So, I don't know. I'm a traditionalist at heart, man. So I like the old days, where we were slugging it with the guys in Austin and, the guys up north in Norman. And, it's going to be a different picture, man.
Well, let me ask you, are you still doing the podcast?
We did it. They shook it up on me and they started doing a nightly 10 p.m. thing.
Oh my goodness!
Dude, I got three kids here. I can't do a nightly thing. And great people. It was a great time.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I don't even know what we could talk about anymore too. I mean, with this shakeup, it's like, how do you have a Big 12 podcast? Because I don't know anything about Cincinnati. Nothing wrong with them, but I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything about BYU. So and you can't speak to man. Well, when I played BYU, I never played BYU, so I didn't know. So part of the best part about the podcast and talking about football was talking about those few plays, or this is what they did here, and all that kind of stuff. And so the taking that out makes it harder, because now it's just more words on a page and numbers, and the feeling and the memories get stripped, and it's not near as easy to talk about. I feel like.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, hell yeah, yeah.
It was damn good. You and Trevor, it was really good.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, outside of providing good credit, I mean, Taylor, Trevor's got the looks. He's got the, he's got the whole bearded wonder thing. Katy Perry shouted him out. So I was just there not to get fined.
Does he have that beard that looks like it's always like a Hollywood guy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's isn't that the one that Katy Perry was all thirsty for?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what I heard, there was a rumor mill. She just didn't know my name. And so I think she just went with Trevor. So that's I don't know. I read that on Twitter somewhere. So.
Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned what this is going to mean. Somebody just asked me on a text. Do you? When was the last time you were at McLean Stadium?
2 years ago.
Okay.
2 years ago.
So it's been recent. Okay, good. Cannot wait until that week, Bryce. Thank you for coming on today. Appreciate you very much, man. You could hear the leadership skills that are still there even to this day when you talk about what it means, the event, what you'd like to see, and we thank you for your time.
Man, thank you guys as always. Y'all be good and don't do anything I wouldn't do over there. At least not until we get to celebrate in November.
No,
can't wait.
And that tequila with ready for OU.
Absolutely.
Bryce Petty. A lot of good discussion in the chat room about him. He's an amazing young man, and he pretty much said what he wants to see. As a guy that was a main part of that team in 13 and 14, we'll see what happens a long time between now and then, but the healing is there, and it could be really, really even deeper than that if in fact things go certain ways. I'm not so sure if they will.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot, just taking the players out of it, there's a lot that's gone on between Coach Briles and the university that I don't know. Can you hit pause on that for 24 hours so that he can come back and be with that team that he built and try to move past this in a way that truly puts it in the rear view? Because, and the hard thing for Baylor is, look, they've done a really decent job of moving on, of weeding out the problems that they had. And I think a lot of light has been shed on what the problems really were. And I don't think anybody involved in any of the lawsuits comes out unscathed, right? Nobody comes out without having made a mistake. But I just think that if you're going to, try to move forward, I think there needs to be at least an effort on some part to make that happen for a day, for just a day, and not worry about whatever the world's going to say. Because I can tell you personally, Smokey, and you know this, when he got that high school job in Mount Vernon, there were a lot of social media warriors that were like, we're going to be there asking the tough questions in Mount Vernon, Texas. Mm-hmm. The hell you were.
They weren't there.
You were not there. You were not there.
Most of the ones that threw the largest or biggest bombs were not there.
Yeah.
And yes, there will be. You have to kind of look at it and balance it about, okay, what is it? Is it worth then? And this is something that Baylor and everyone will have to deal with. Is it worth then that they have learned nothing or they're tone deaf or whatever? Do what you want to do, Baylor, and what you think is right. And I think one of the issues that happened again 7, 8, 9 years ago was that at times decisions were made because they were worried about what everyone else was thinking rather than what they really wanted to do. All right, thanks to Bryce Petty. Coming around the corner, it's Chris Gardner, covers the University of Houston, the men's basketball team, coming off the loss to Iowa State a week ago on Saturday, but still rocked up. We'll see what happens with Juwan Roberts and more as Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars are a number 1 seed. His thoughts about that. This is 365 Sports. TexasBeefHouse.com. The online auctions coming up in April. And then also, right now, there are still favorites. There are still some goodies. For example, if you buy 25 pounds of hamburger beef, you will get some New York strips. I mean, New York strips are great. It all depends. Everybody likes a different steak, whether it's a ribeye, New York strip, whether it's a filet, and they have all of those. Buy the 25-pound ground beef family bundle at TexasBeefHouse.com and receive a package of Wagyu new strips for free. ending March 25th or while supplies last. And speaking of April, they will have yet again an online auction where you can participate in person at their ranch right just outside of Tyler with the Duvall family and TexasBeefHouse.com, or even go online. I know of a viewer who has bought a lot of product from Texas Beef House. And I remember it might have been the last auction where he was kind of monitoring it, kind of watching what the prices were going to be, either got distracted or what, and thought there was going to be this, like he was going to get a steal. Because, by the way, no matter what you pay, anything you buy from TexasBeefHouse.com is a steal with their aged Wagyu beef, farm-raised aged Wagyu beef. And all of a sudden, he got distracted, stopped paying attention for just enough where what he wanted to go in for the kill at the end was bought out from under him. And he regrets that. I got a feeling he's going to be heavily involved when that comes up in April. Online auction. For more information, great family, incredible product at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
Samantha Duvall, TexasBeefHouse.com with me, David Smoak. And tell you what, you guys keep rolling along. You do have yet another date, correct, for an online and live auction?
Yes, our next online and live auction will be Thursday, April 25th.
We've discussed how this has been unique and how people have reacted to it. Has that momentum continued as you've done more?
Yes, it's kind of half and half. We'll have a good amount of people there that are from the area, and then we have probably 40% that we ship out. And everybody that I've delivered locally to has talked about how much fun they had, and they want to know when the next one's going to be. We've gotten great feedback from the people that we've shipped to. They're all just so excited about this event, and they can't wait for the next one to happen.
Premium grade East Texas beef. Customers don't have to go out and buy their beef. TexasBeefHouse.com, from their family and their ranch to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has been proudly serving Texans across the state for over 60 years. Call 254-772-8090 to find an agent who will provide a free review of your auto, home, and life coverage.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
It is time to dip back into the scoreboard. This kind of reminds me with what we have going when we do pregame shows on Saturdays during football season, because you have games going on, and sometimes you're like, wow, you can't wait to talk about this great game or an upset or whatever. Illinois is wrapping it up against Morehead State. 7 minutes left. They're now up by 21. Oregon at halftime leading South Carolina by 5. I believe, I didn't see it because we were talking to Bryce, that somebody had a half-court or buzzer beater. Dayton up 5 early against Nevada. Well, actually not early. 5 minutes left in the first half. Those are games currently going on that have ended. North Carolina, Arizona, Creighton, Duquesne, and Michigan State have all advanced. We're now joined by Chris Gardner, covers the University of Houston. Chris joined us back earlier in the Big 12 season about the Cougars on 365 Sports. Chris, thank you very much. How much do you feel like from Saturday, no matter how that ended, the extra, not just day, but almost 5 or 6 days since they played to get this team healthy?
Oh, wow, Smokey. I mean, a huge benefit to the Cougs. And Sunday, Coach Sampson touched on it. before they had the private party, some of the other staffers are like, boy, we're hoping we get picked to play on Friday because the days off can really help the players because they're so banged up and injured and guys are out. But there's a chance one of their injured players might play at some point this tournament, Ramon Walker.
Yeah, what is the injury status overall? Is it going to be? Are they white knuckling it until tomorrow?
Juwan Roberts will play. His, barring some setback in practice today or yesterday, his shin, the bruised shin, should be good to go. The knee swelling, he's dealt with it all season basically, but he'll be good to go and give it what he has. And then other guys like Terrence Arsenault, out for the season since December. Tugler out for the season. There's a guy like that. They're done. They're not coming back. But there's a chance that Ramon Walker will play, and he could help up front with rebounding and toughness.
Yeah, the Roberts thing, and you say he's going to play, which is great because he's, just an amazing player. Plus the fact that he gives them what they need inside, and he's a great passer, really good on defense. Left-handed, I think, because that kind of creates sometimes a matchup issue. So for Houston to not just win tomorrow, and they're expected to, but for Houston to run and let's just say get to the second weekend without getting ahead of ourselves, for them to get to the Sweet 16, which they're favored to do, what must they do better than perhaps in the last, even though they had a nice long streak in the last 2 to 5 games?
Rebound better. That has been the biggest, slide with the injuries up front. They're no longer the dominating rebounding team that they were before the injuries. So rebound better, and they'll need consistency. Good play from Xavier Francis, their starting center. When he plays very well, they're that much better. When he struggles because of the lack of depth up front, it's a big blow.
Chris, what do you think of the draw that they got in that they're going to get either a red-hot Nebraska team or a red-hot A&M team in the second round?
It's not ideal. When the Cougs faced the Aggies in December in the one-day event in Houston, Wade Wilson went off, and he got the better of Jamal Shead that day, even though Jamal blocked his shot, I think, twice. He still scored like 25, 30 points in the second half. It was amazing to see in person. But so the explosive, and Nebraska shoots well from three as well. So that's going to be a tough matchup, second-round matchup that I think Coug fans are kind of concerned about it from an Aggies. If the Aggies win the game, they're kind of concerned because they may not know as much about Nebraska. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup either way for the Cougs.
I love watching the game in Waco, which we had you on, I think, maybe the week before that game that they had the huge lead, and then Baylor came back, and then, of course, overtime and more. In your opinion, is there a moment or two among this great run that you remember the most as kind of a, what's the word? I don't know about difference maker, but that gave this team a shot of adrenaline?
Oh, let's see. Jamal, it's got to be involved. Jamal Shead, probably. Wow, either the game in Austin or the game in Waco. Because Jamal almost beat Baylor at the buzzer.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he took the shot and made it was like, this team is special, even though the shot didn't count by just a millisecond. But Coach Sampson wants the ball in Jamal's hands those final seconds. When Houston lost to TCU in Fort Worth earlier in conference play, Damian Dunn just did not follow the program. Okay, he did not get the ball to Jamal Shead in time. And Coach Sampson's right there. That is not going to happen the rest of this season. Final seconds of the game, I want the ball in Jamal Shead's hands. And he wants Jamal, instead of settling for outside shot, a pull-up kind of shot, attack the basket and get into the paint, and then we'll see what happens offensively for the team.
Chris, this team has been – we talked about this last night. This team has been built on deep postseason runs. Is there a sense when they get started that there's maybe less nerves around the team because the coaches, even the players that have transferred in, like LG Cryer's done this before. A lot of these guys have been there and done that. So the early part of this where there's jitters is not necessarily there for them like it would be for a lot of teams.
Yes. They expect to win. It's part of the culture that Coach Sampson and the staff have created these last few years, especially getting to the tournament and making deep runs. And ironically, to show you how far the program has come, last season's team losing in a regional semifinal, the Sweet 16 round, everybody thought it was a disappointment because that team had more talent than previous Houston teams, but did not get as far as folks expected them to. That's what Coach Sampson has helped create. This year's team, if they were healthy, they'd have an even better chance to get to the Final Four. If they're not as healthy, they're going to just do the best they can with what they got.
Tell us something about Jamal Shead besides what we already know.
He and L.J. Cryer have been friends since they were 10 years old. And L.J. Cryer used to light up Jamal on the court when they were 10 years old.
Yeah, L.J., now you talk about a guy that put up some points when he was in high school. Not just that he scored, but he was a hell of a player. And, of course, he was good for Baylor, too. And so there's that connection as well about when he decided to go back home, but also the relationship with his buddy in Jamal Shead.
Yes. And I did not know about how long they've been friends until they told me at the media day for the conference, Big 12 conference in Kansas City.
Chris, LJ has been what they needed. I think, a lot of fans want him to light it up more than he does, but how did they tweak his defense, which was a problem, not because he wasn't willing, but he's not a big dude. So he's got matchup issues when it comes to defense. And when they put longer guards on him in the past when he was at Baylor, it was just kind of a wrap for him. How has Kelvin Sampson built around that and dealt with that issue?
A lot of practices, a lot of running the court for LJ early on in practice sessions when he wasn't competing, because that's one thing Coach Sampson, he wants his players to compete. He's not going to allow excuses to be made about you're not tall enough, you don't have this, you are a Houston Cougar, you will compete in practice. And if he didn't do things correctly, he'd have to run until he began to compete and began to figure out defensively. And that's what's helped him be a better player on defense for sure.
All right, so Longwood, 21-13, whatever their record is, they made the run. They're in the tournament. That's what is so much fun about these first couple of days. There hasn't been the shocking upset, but Duquesne did beat BYU. Houston's favored to win by whatever they want, but it's still, that's why you play the games. What about Longwood? How much do you know about them? What if they do something well? What is that they do well?
They are a veteran team, just like Houston is without Tugler as well being out for the season. Longwood is experienced. They're starting basically all upperclassmen, and they out-rebound their opponents by 9 a game. So that could be a factor for the Cougs if it's kind of even on the boards, because then you're going to have to rely on Houston to get semi-hot, lukewarm from outside, with Emmanuel Sharp knocking down threes to help L.J. Cryer make threes as well.
One more thing, and Kelvin Sampson, because we've watched him, and they played Baylor the year Baylor made the run to win the national title when LJ was on that team, and in a part of that rotation, they expected to win. They knew they were good going into a new conference, although the Big 12 obviously is very deep, but Houston plays anybody, pretty much anywhere, anytime. How much, not from Sampson, and probably not from any of the players, but was there a little bit of that nervous energy when they started 0-2 with that, this is different?
Oh, from the fans. Definitely, Smokey. Oh, no question. Those first 2 losses, oh, gosh. The sky's falling. Oh, my gosh. What have we gotten ourselves into? The Cougs not as good as we thought. And I had to, because I spent a lot of time with the coaches and the staff and stuff. I had to calm folks down. It's going to be okay. This is life in the Big 12. It's not a surprise. I'll say this. Coach Sampson has said it even in some media sessions. If you would have told coach and the staff that they would win the Big 12 and only lose 3 games in conference play, they'd have thought you were smoking something.
Mm-hmm. Like some heavy,
no way
smoking some heavy duty stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris, I said all year, the only difference between Houston, going in, the only thing Houston's going to experience that's different is that they'll lose more games this year. And they didn't do that.
They didn't. Yeah.
But they're still going to be good. They'll just lose a couple more games because instead of playing Temple, you're going to be playing Texas Tech. They didn't do that.
No.
It's been remarkable.
Yep.
It has. I thought they lose 5 or 6 times in conference play.
Well, most people do. Most humans do. I mean, like even with a KU or Baylor, when they won it all, they'd like maybe lose 2 or 3 games. But that's just because and you know this, there were a few times when they could have burped, and then all of a sudden they have 5 or 6 losses, but they were able to make it happen, like blowing the lead on the road in that environment at the Foster Pavilion, but yet in overtime getting it all back together and winning. That's a couple of pair right there. Shed hitting that one rebound that came off the rim and throwing it up and making the shot at the buzzer. That's how they are. That's who they are. Look forward to it. Houston Round Ball Review. You can get all you want from Chris M. Gardner at the HR Review. It's a great follow. Follow him. He covers Houston like nobody else, and thanks for your time, buddy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Chris Gardner.
Take care.
Houston Round Ball Review. By the way, early in the week, we had Mac Rhodes in studio. Was it Tuesday, I guess it was. And there was the quote about what Mac said, that revenue sharing's coming. And it's not like that was like, oh, my God. But, not many administrators have actually gone on record to say that, but he did. And Chris then put up that clip with us and with Mac on his feed. And then, like most people or everyone should do, gave us the credit. Appreciate what he does. He watches our show, and he does a great job. Chris Gardner at the Houston Round Ball Review. We'll catch up on that Illinois game. They've blown it open against Morehead State and a couple of other nuggets to get to as well. And this is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, a family business with multiple families involved with ownership and in business since 1943. Pipe, steel, and metal, that's what they do the best. That's what they have a lot of. They have, if you want to build a building, not just a metal building, if you want to build something, commercial or real estate, you need to go by there, get online, go see what they have. And if you don't know, then I don't know where you've been, because they've been around since 1943. And then back in December of 2022, they moved into a brand new location, a brand new massive building, 2,500 square foot showroom with 1,000 new products on display. And then, of course, their real business, the nuts and bolts of what they do. The distribution bays that are available that was already very well and efficient, but now even better for you, whether you're going to pick something up and it's just a pickup truck or a dually, or it's a trailer, or it's an 18-wheeler, because we're talking big product. Pipe, steel, and metal. Since 1943, located just east of I-35 on Loop 340 and Highway 6, Pioneer Boys, pioneerboys.com.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days at Allen Samuels in Waco. Experience the adrenaline-pumping performance and cutting-edge technology of Dodge. From the sleek and stylish 2023 Charger to the performance and muscle of a Challenger to the bold and rugged Durango. During Dodge Power Shot Days, we're offering amazing deals and special incentives that will make driving a new Dodge even more exhilarating. Don't miss out on these exclusive savings. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco today and unleash the power of Dodge.
Come by. Let's be friends.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist's office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
365 Sports, Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Emery Winter is weaving his magic with what he does and puts things up on, of course, the 365 Sports reel, and then has his editing going about doing what he needs to do as well to help us out and get 365 Sports up tonight on the local CW. Update, Illinois has beaten Morehead State. A little bit of a grind early, and then Brad Underwood and company, very talented, 85-69. That's a final. That game goes final. South Carolina is getting mowed down by Oregon.
By the way,
17. That thing just cooked right there.
Look, I picked South Carolina. My bracket is bad right now because of this, because I trusted the SEC in their good basketball season. But this is karma for Greg Sankey going out in the world and being like, the SEC is better than all of you and everything.
Well, they have teams that will make a run, perhaps, most likely a handful
Kentucky,
of South
Tennessee,
Carolina.
Auburn. I've got Auburn. Look, I picked Auburn to win the thing.
Yep.
But right now, we don't need. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever.
Oregon is leading by 17. There's still 14 minutes left. Mm-hmm. Dayton down 9 at halftime to Nevada. That's a 10th seed, leading right now. And then the game that just went final, as I mentioned a minute ago, Illinois. Shannon, who transferred, remember, a couple of years ago from Texas Tech, heck of a player, has been playing with all of that drama and noise, had 26. Illinois beat Morehead State 85-69. North Carolina by 28 over Wagner. Arizona pummeled Long Beach State by 20. Creighton won by 17 against Akron. All these are blowouts. Duquesne beats BYU by 4. An 11 seed beats a 6 seed, and Michigan State by 18. So a lot of double-digit blowout games from the first session and a half, and a couple of them right now about to be that way. Texas is next around the corner. They will tip in about an hour and 14 minutes. And Kentucky playing later on tonight. And of course, we already put up the slate of the other games. Now, Garrett, let me know when that's ready.
I got it.
We need to have an intervention. So I noticed a nice, it's a kind of an Aggie type color. And I know your blood with the Aggies, even though you're an FSU fan, but almost even a garnet color. I don't know. And then there's this thing that's just been basically inserted into your head about Kansas.
Yeah.
So Paul is going to this is a text from Amanda. Look at how I saved the name on my phone, by the way. Amanda.
There you go.
He's so cute and got dressed all by himself.
Yeah.
It's like you're an invalid or something like that.
It is. It is. I know. She wanted to make sure that everyone knew that this was I made this choice of my own free will to make my wife happy.
These shirts were hanging from the closet or in the bathroom where you hang your towels. This was a premeditated decision, not by you.
It was not. It was not. So I honestly, it was not her doing. Granted, the whole reason I have this shirt is her doing. If you go back to the beginning, but I picked this one out on my own when we went up there to the game, over a month ago, and she's been very nervous about everything going on with Kansas, and I wanted to put her at ease, and I live under the mantra, happy wife, happy life. So if it made her smile today, and that's all that matters to me. And one day I'm sure I'll get a Florida State shirt on her when they have a big game and something.
She doesn't care about that.
No, she really doesn't.
This is a one-way street with this KU thing. She's not going to wear a Seminoles T-shirt when they're playing like a big game, or if they're still a part of the ACC or not.
Yeah.
I mean,
most of the chat room's on my side.
Okay, when you guys go to the SMU game,
she's going to
wear like a jersey,
like
a Charlie Ward number jersey,
maybe, or I'll get her dressed up like Chief Osceola.
All right.
I mean, I'll get her riding in there on a horse.
What do you mean the chat room? For some reason I can't get all like the larger part of this screen.
So look, I'll just tell
spouse,
you.
Happy house.
Alan says, I forgive you, Paul. Mike Bean, of course, supports me. He's a Jayhawk. Jayhawk Nation is proud of you. Paxton says, Paul looks lit. Happy wife equals happy life. Happy spouse, happy house. Paul abides by that old adage, happy wife, happy life. See, there you go.
Damn you, Paul. I hate Paul. And in the middle of all that, Kim, of course, inserted a little Texas Tech note. We mentioned Shannon at Illinois having a big game that he did praise Texas Tech and what they meant to him and the time that he was there in Lubbock.
Imagine
if they had Shannon and McCullough still there.
With Pop? Oh, my gosh, yeah.
And then probably if that was the case, then you would think that who knows who would still be there.
Yeah.
I don't know, the beard thing, whatever, but, man.
Yeah.
So do it again. Let everyone know.
Look, Kim Coulter gave me the Shaka, so that's
the Shaka Smart?
No, he's from Hawaii. Shaka.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Paxton, he knows.
I'll be asleep for the Texas Tech game. Paxton's getting lit up right now for that game with Texas and Colorado State. The Rams, by the way, who won earlier this week.
Now, look, I can tell you this. Kansas, it's lucky. I want to go back on this a little bit. I married someone who, I had no feelings towards Kansas one way or the other, before we got together. And now, I don't know if I couldn't have married her. I don't think if she was a Gator. I don't think I could have done that.
Oh, I respect that.
I don't think I could have. And there were a lot of girls I went to high school with or knew in college that were gorgeous and wonderful. And then I would get down to it and be like,
down to it.
When you get down to thinking about can I date this girl that's a Gator, I'd be like, you know what? When it comes to that Saturday after Thanksgiving, I'm just going to be so mad at you. So no. But could I marry a Longhorn? Probably not. I say nothing but disparaging things about them very publicly on the air for a long time. Even when I say nice things about them, I do have to bounce it out an hour later just so I feel like myself.
Yeah, we with UT when they have earned what they did last year during football season and times during the basketball season.
I praise them for what they deserve to be praised for, and I rag on them for what they deserve to be ragged on for, and I do one more than the other.
Yeah.
Bottom line. It's the same with Florida, but probably a lot less and more skewed.
By the way, Alan, for the books, I'm rooting for Kansas against Samford. You're talking about gambling, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that Shohei Ohtani story, we haven't touched on that. Craig was going to do off the radar, but he's going to be at practice right now. All right, well, there you go. So Paul woke up this morning, and while he was asleep, while Amanda was sharpening the knife in case Kansas loses, which they won't, he woke up and there were two hangers where you would normally go and get whatever you're going to wear, hanging there with this shirt, and then she had also added that one to the mix.
No, that's not what happened.
You believe that, Garrett?
I don't know, man. I think she might have helped him a little.
Nudged him a little bit.
I did this all on my own.
It's amazing.
I did.
That's man, you've come so far with that. I just don't even know what I can say. I don't. So, all right, there we are with that. Paul Catalina already getting ready. So, if they lose, does that shirt get thrown away? Or do you get thrown away?
All of that is up to her. So.
Oh, my goodness. Craig's at practice, by the way, took a picture. He was like, hey, is this Gary Patterson in the background? I haven't looked at the picture yet.
Well, no, he said, can you tell it's him?
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I'm trying to.
Well, is there a towel girl?
No. Well, he's inside, so maybe he doesn't need one.
It looks like him, but it's definitely kind of hard to tell.
He walked by. It was interesting. And I've interviewed him. We've interviewed him. I've seen him, obviously. Aranda's about to do his post-practice media session, and I look off to the side. There's Matthew Pallage walks by, and Spavital walks by. They're walking on the concrete towards where the interest is for the coaches to go up to the offices. And all of a sudden, I'm like, and it still kind of made me take a double take with Gary Patterson walking by, and I was like, I'm still, and now I guess that's out of the way now, right? It's out of the way right now. Hey, if in fact you missed our conversation with former Baylor quarterback Bryce Petty on the former Big 12 champions being honored, I hope you go back and listen to it. If you have the time, we'll have that up for you. He was, I thought, fantastic. All right, when we come back, more to get to. This is 365 Sports.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
Oregon 14-point lead, 10 minutes left against South Carolina. Now it's down to 11. South Carolina trying to make a run, and maybe they will as that game continues.
Someone in this thing has to have respect for my bracket.
I can't remember. I think I may have taken South Carolina.
I did. They had a really good season.
I thought that Oregon made the
Oregon
run.
was a bid stealer.
Sometimes, yeah, you have that late run. Do they stay hot? And then again, you think, okay, are they out of gas? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it carries over.
Okay. I also just, in the sentiment of doing it another way, is, okay, what bird would win in this fight? A cockfighting rooster or a duck? And I mean, I'm taking the violent, angry rooster, but, maybe ducks are more vicious than I realize.
Garrett, I'm going to send you yet one other one, the one that Craig was asking us about. We'll put that up. So, okay, hold on just a second. Before you do that, there's been a couple of notes that I want to pass along. Let's see here. Garrett, you can go now. All right. So I sent you a couple of tweets. Just put up any one you want.
All right, Dan Hurley first.
So Dan Hurley eats 8 M&M candies before every game. He discards the colors of opponents. He's been doing this for years. No green ones Friday before UConn plays Stetson.
Huh.
A little superstition.
Yeah. That almost sounds like a rider on a contract. You know how the bands would be like, listen, we need 7,000 blue M&Ms, and most of that was on there because they wanted to see if people read the contract. But, yeah, I mean, look, if it works for you, and they won the national championship last year, I wonder if he knows you can he can probably have somebody run to an M&M store and just get him those colors.
Yeah,
you have to do all the work.
We've done this before. Let's see what the chat room does for just a second. Then Bracket Cat, what is this? Like M&M voodoo? Plain or peanut?
Peanut.
Yeah,
hands down for me.
I'm a plain guy. Look, I'm an M&M across the board guy. I'll eat the crispy, I'll eat the caramel, I'll eat the peanut butter. It doesn't matter. I love them. They have brownie ones now that are quite good. Cookie dough ones that were really good.
But I'm more of the American Cookie Company, where we get cakes on our celebrations and stuff, which we're coming up on our 4th year here in about 2 weeks. They have some now that they have them all over the cookie cake, at least the icing.
Yeah, and so, but I'm honestly more of a plain guy.
You know what's weird is I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when I was growing up, and I haven't had one probably in a long, long time. And I like them.
You had all those Uncrustables.
I started doing those Uncrustables, and that kind of got old. But I am not – very rarely do I have candy that has peanut butter or caramel in it. Now, it's hard not to have one or the other. But I am not – I'm mainly just a pure chocolate or milk chocolate. On the M&Ms, I don't want the caramel. I will take either one. It's one of those where either one, if I had a bag, I don't need a lot of candy anymore. But I could either one. Either one's fine.
I can't do caramel in general. Like, I'm not.
Is it like you're allergic to it?
No, the taste, I'm real weird with textures.
Well, it's chewy. It's chewy.
I just do not like it.
All right, from Dustin, peanut butter M&Ms. From Kim, peanut. Well, they're also bigger, right? And then Mike Bean asked, why just 8?
That's his thing.
Like, if you have the plain ones, 8 can get out of control. You could have 15 of them in there. You don't know. I mean, that's kind of like small. They're like those baby aspirins. You don't even know how many you have in your hand if you go to throw them in. From JG, Reese's for the win. Frozen peanut M&Ms and Reese cups are my favorite. From S. Michael DeHart.
I'm all about that S. Michael DeHart.
Mike, thank you. S. Kim, great question. How the hell do you eat only 8 of them?
I don't know. Look, you're asking the wrong person that question.
Alan,
is this a face and a body type that has ever, even at my leanest and meanest, ever said, just give me 8 M&Ms?
8 packs? I mean, the little ones, those little packs, like sometimes if you're on Halloween, and I haven't done that in 3 or 4 decades, but they're little tiny packs. I could just they're like gone. All right, so we had that one. We had the Dan Hurley one. And now Barstool Sports, incredible villain move. McNeese coaching staff showed up to the NCAA tournament wearing shirts with receipts of everyone who mocked Will Wade.
I love this.
Tears of corruption and enablement led to shameful and deserving end for Will Wade. Will Wade's not so smart thing, and then, of course, other headlines as well. Now, that's keeping receipts, and that's also there's a huge, massive chip on his shoulder. He was exonerated?
No.
Or did he, like the NCAA, just quit trying to win? How did that work out?
He was on tape. He did it. The thing is that, they tried to pin all this other, heavier stuff with level 1 violations and all these things on Will Wade, and they never got there. They never got to the finish line. So they penalized him how they penalized him. It expired like a year ago. It ran out a year ago. And so all the stuff that the NCAA thought they were going to do to Will Wade, and of course in the middle of them trying to do it, you lose a case, and you're like, well, we're going to punish this guy for something that happened while this is still illegal, but then what was illegal is now we can't even prosecute, so then they get caught up in the red tape, and so Will Wade's exonerated, and now there's going to be way more coaches in there like Will Wade, maybe not with the chip on his shoulder, which is as big as Will Wade, but guys who are like, all right, I can hustle NIL, let's go do it. I can just call the sneaker rep and have him go talk to people, and now I don't have to worry about that. I don't care. I don't have to have a go-between, and we don't have to meet in a restaurant and all these things and drop cash in a bag. Psh,
or
great.
Get a wiretap. So they were so pissed off at LSU and Will Wade that they penalized Oklahoma State.
Kind of because they couldn't.
Think about it, Kansas, and this is not for Kansas and North Carolina fans or whatever. Just stop. Don't get overly heated over this. But it is interesting.
But none of them lost postseason. LSU didn't lose postseason. Now, granted, after Will Wade left, they haven't made it. But Kansas didn't lose postseason.
No.
Oklahoma State lost postseason. Arizona didn't lose postseason. So Oklahoma State got a postseason ban, which of all the things you can give someone, especially in basketball,
worst.
It's the worst thing they could give them.
Well, a TV ban is like death. Almost, but a postseason ban is awful.
I choose to look at Oklahoma State now, and it's unfortunate that they had to be the sacrificial lamb. But when you see what happened with Oklahoma State, and they're like, well, first of all, Mike Boynton wasn't the coach when this happened. Second of all, these players weren't here when it happens. Third of all, the players that we're talking about are not here anymore. By the time this has all gotten adjudicated out, all this is over, and you're going to punish us now,
and Boynton's not going to be there when they're on the other side of it.
It's just kind of ridiculous. And again, in the middle of all this, and I do think that this fed into that Condoleezza Rice and the committee that she was on of, hey, you guys really have to figure these things out faster, because right now, when it comes up and it's 6 years later, and you're like, whoa,
yeah, it's like the statute of limitations of whatever.
At LSU, what are they going to do to LSU? What could they do to LSU about this after LSU fires Will Wade?
Nothing.
And it was the same thing.
Have they been a 500 or better team? Have they even done that?
They're miserable.
Okay.
At basketball.
All right. So this is the kicker for the hour.
They did not, and I'll tell you this: they did not fire. I believe this in my heart of hearts. They did not fire Will Wade because they were appalled at what he did.
No.
They fired Will Wade because he was on tape, and he sounded like a dick. So, they're like, oh, we can't have him sounding this way and saying these things, which you can feel is whatever way you want about his personality that you do. I'm not telling you how to. I don't know how I feel about his personality, although the top 5 is about him.
Well, it'd be nice to meet him before you cut him.
I know, but again, I don't have any kind of feeling either way about him, but because I don't know him. But that's why he got fired, is because he's on tape, and you listen to that tape and you sound like, man, this guy's kind of acting like a jackass right now.
Well, speaking of someone who some Baylor fans have, there's some that just don't like him. Never will, no matter what. Craig Smoak's at practice. That's why he's not on the set for the last hour. Baylor senior consultant Gary Patterson taking notes and watching closely at practice, wearing a Baylor, what looks like a mock.
Like a V-neck?
With a Baylor logo on the chest.
I mean, we're in the crazy times.
The more we show this, the more we got to get over it, and maybe there's going to be a time at some point. I don't know if he'll be available because he's an analyst, not a part of the 10-man staff. But there we are with that. All right, when we come back, Bob Thompson on many things, from even going back to the distribution of the college football playoff, how much is overall available, to even a lot of the streaming with what ESPN with their standalone, plus what is it, Paramount and others are trying to do. We'll have that. Mickey Spagnola later on, about a half an hour from now, in Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports.
Our good friend Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jewelers, here at 365 Sports. Now, Brad, people who watch and listen to our show know I'm a double-time customer for you, engagement ring and wedding band, and you guys do that great, but that's not all you do at Boozer's Jewelers.
Absolutely. And I always like to say, it's a new year. It's a great way to start the year out. Go through your old jewelry. Go through your wife's jewelry box. Go through anything you're maybe not wearing, something that's broken, something that you're not using. We do a massive amount of custom work. We can take your old jewelry, old diamonds, old watches, and we can convert it into something special for you and make a one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry. And if that's not something you're interested in, a great thing is we can turn that into cash. So we buy gold, we buy diamonds, we'll buy Rolex watches, any kind of heirloom jewelry, anything that's maybe passed down to you.
Boozer's Jewelers, where do they find you, Brad?
We're at 1025 North Valley Mills Drive, right on the corner of Lake Air Drive and Valley Mills with the big clock on the corner.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Bob Thompson, retired Fox Sports president, CEO, has been on with us a lot the last 3 or 4 years, including all of the crazy when it comes to realignment. And it's been a while, so I reached out to Bob because of some of what he's talked about when it comes to what we're about to have, when it's streaming and piecing together how you could watch sports, the cost, etc. And then also because the college football playoff distribution now is known, starting with what they released on Friday. Bob Thompson joins Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Craig is at Baylor football practice right now. We'll be back a little bit later on. Bob, thank you so much for your time. We have one of our viewers, Kim Coulter, lives in Scottsdale, and I know that's real close to where you are. He is a member at Anthem Golf Course. How good a course is that? Have you played it?
I have not played it. It's a little ways from where I'm at, but I heard very good things about it. And in fact, our new head pro just came over from Anthem.
Oh, okay. So, all right. Well, yeah, it's not.
There's a lot of golf courses. Yeah. There's a lot of golf courses around here, including one right outside my back door that I'm a member at. So I tend to play there.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could just turn around and you get slapped in the face with a golf course, and all of them look amazing. So you saw the numbers. I know you have made some comments along the way about the distribution or how much ESPN is giving the college football playoff. In the end, it seems like it's about what everyone thought. Was that a lower number than you would have expected maybe a couple of years ago?
First of all, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be with you guys.
Thank you.
I thought it was a bit light, and I say that for a couple of reasons. A few years ago, there was talk of the number starting with a 2, as in $2 billion. I think, certainly the television business has suffered some significant headwinds since then. And we've seen that in bidding on certain properties that people thought might be a little more feverish. This didn't turn out that way. And I think this is one of those cases. But still, when you're coming off a 12-year deal, to only really get an increase of 25 to 28%, that seems a little light. Now, and what people have to understand here is I don't compare average cost of a 12-year deal with average cost of a 6-year deal because it's an improper way to do it. You really need to look at what the last year of the existing deal is, which in the next 2 seasons is going to be, when they have back up to 12 games, it's probably going to be in the 800 to 850 range. And then they're going to start the next deal in 26 at about 1.15 billion. So the increase is around 25%. But if you took what people were talking about, the average of the last deal, which is around 800 if you count all 6 of the New Year's Six Bowls, and then go to 1.3, people are saying it's 100% increase. Well, that's just not the case. And I understand some of the headwinds, and ESPN as the incumbent always has an advantage on a renewal. And they probably have some back end rights. They probably have some exclusive negotiating windows. And it's possible that the other bidders never even really had a chance to look at the whole package, or what was offered to them was of no appeal to them. Like maybe it was just those first round games only. So, and the others just might not have been as interested as we thought. I thought Fox would go pretty hard at it, but either they didn't get a chance or they ultimately decided it wasn't something that really, interested them.
Do you feel like they're still going to get anything at all, or is this is a 100% ESPN, so there's not going to be any kind of subleasing any games to them?
ESPN, my understanding, has the right to sublicense games. I don't know if that's something ESPN is prepared to do. I think that it's certainly a possibility, especially in the first round when you've got so many games that first weekend, first 3 or 4 days they'll play the game. So they may try and go ahead and sublicense some of those games, but I don't see them doing anything certainly after the first 2 rounds. I mean, they're clearly going to keep the semis in the finals.
Bob, what do you think would have been the reason that Fox didn't go as hard after it as maybe you would have thought?
Well, it could have just been as simple as ESPN didn't give them the option or the opportunity because of their back end rights. And if you have a tremendous advantage if you're the incumbent and you have certain back end rights, you can get the thing kind of closed up before anybody else has even a chance to look real hard at it. Now, my understanding is they talked to a lot of people, but we don't know how far those talks ever got. And maybe ESPN was the preferred landing spot for these games with the CFP all along. And so then it just became a matter of, what are you going to pay for these 4 extra games, and what will you give us as far as an increase goes? Because you got to remember, we're going from 7 to 11 games, I think it is, if you count all the New Year's Six Bowls. We're going from 7 games to 11 games. So there has to be something for those first 4 games, and that's going to be interesting to see if they ever do allocate a price to those, or if they offload them to somebody else, what someone pays for them, because that's going to be an interesting number, what the price for those first 4 games was.
It's not a surprise the SEC and the Big Ten are getting a larger chunk, but I was naive enough to think, I guess because I just was, that if there's this X amount of money that everybody that's in Autonomy 5 would get at least somewhere close to the same, and that's not the case. We see what the SEC and Big Ten are going to get, the 58% split, and then the ACC 17, the Big 12, I think it's like 13 or 14 million, and the rest of it as well. Did that surprise you when you saw the breakdown?
Once I saw the SEC and the Big Ten talking about joining together on certain things, you had a pretty good idea they were going to flex their muscles on this. And clearly that's what happened. I think, as opposed to the last go around on the 12-year deal where pretty much every one of the A5 conferences got the same amount of money to distribute amongst their members. Clearly the divide has been made now with, 29% going to the Big Ten and SEC schools and 17% to ACC and 14.5%, 15% to the Big 12. I think that really they had no other choice. I mean, you don't want the Big Ten and the SEC to, take their ball and go away. I'm not saying that's what they would have done, but clearly they have some outsized power in this thing. And I think this new sharing schedule is very indicative of that power.
What has to happen for those conferences to grow their share? Like, how long of a run would they have to go on winning playoff games and titles and drawing ratings for anything to tip in their favor?
Well, if you look at how the split was made, and the ACC had Clemson in twice and Florida State in once in that last 12 years, I want to say. And the Big 12 had really, if you take out Texas, I think just TCU, probably the only one in there. Maybe in Oklahoma was not just TCU, I think. You're going to have 3 or 4 pretty good runs deep into the playoffs and hopefully winning a championship before it appears, based on the current breakout of numbers, percentages, before you're going to get any kind of benefit of having some significant success. The SEC and the Big Ten just had so many of won so many championships and had so many finalists as well over the last 12 years that the numbers could only tip in their direction. So if you're the ACC or the Big 12, you're going to have to go on some pretty good runs deep into the playoffs, like I said, in order to get them to tilt the numbers your way.
Bob, you've been a part of this business, obviously retired now, but when did you see this coming, that they would eventually explode to this number, even back when you were negotiating what you did when you were at Fox?
I think when back in 2010, the last round of deals, 2011, 12, 2010, 11, when the Big 12 deals were getting done and there was Texas was rumored to, and 3 others were rumored to be going to the Pac-12. The Missouri and A&M moves to the SEC. You could see that there was starting to be a jockeying for position based on brands and market size and things like that. And then once the Big Ten made the land grab for Rutgers and Maryland, and then that also and Nebraska, that also gave me a pretty good indication that people are going to try and get bigger sooner rather than later. It took a while because of the length of existing TV deals and grant of rights and how people were locked into their existing situation. But as those deals came to the end, it was pretty clear real quick that things were going to blow up again. And we may not be done. I mean, I know that there's certainly stuff going on in the ACC right now. But you've got 5 more years till a lot of these TV deals start up again or start to be renegotiated again. And I'm sure that's why the CFP went short, as far as 6 years. And it's also why I think it was Yormark wanted to look to open up the deal, around 2008 in case, there's been some drastic moves that might require a rejiggering of these percentages that divide up the money.
Bob, is there a market, and I there's a handful of them, but of all the schools that are not attached to a conference right now, that are not attached to an Autonomy 4 conference, because now the Pac-12's too, is there a market out there that you think's pretty juicy that someone's overlooking?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah, these guys are smart. They would have known that by now. I was just curious.
Yeah. All you got to look to do is do it. what they did with Oregon State and Washington State at the very beginning, which was to me kind of a shot across the bow of the Washington State president for holding up this thing for a while. We said, we're going to give you guys $350,000 each, right? They've been getting $6 million. We're going to give you $350,000 each. That's basically what UConn gets as an independent. And, you know, they went back and thankfully they increased it by tenfold. And at least you're giving these guys $3.6 million in Washington State and Oregon State. But, you know, they just, you need to be in a conference that's strong. And I don't think that anything else out there is going to really move that's not already associated with an A4 is going to really move the needle. I mean, it would be nice if Oregon State and Washington State got picked up somewhere. I don't know that they are, or what they reconstitute the Pac-12 if the CFP or anybody is going to look at them and say that we now are back to A5 again, or are they going to be looked at more as a G5? A lot of it's just going to depend on what the makeup of the conference is.
Bob Thompson, retired Fox Sports CEO and president, with us on 365 Sports.
Bob, how much value is there for basketball moving down the line? It seems like it's growing in popularity, but is the only value to expand the tournament something that I would say 95% of fans don't really want?
I have to be careful how I answer this because of some things I'm working on. But I think certainly there's significant value in basketball, and I think certain conferences who have good basketball are trying to make basketball, a bigger piece of their pie. I think certainly the Big 12 has proven that they are, an extremely strong basketball conference, and what Brett's done with, the stuff up at Rucker Park in New York and selling the PSLs for the men's basketball tournament in Kansas City. I think those are all great ways to increase revenue that you're going to generate for basketball. From a television standpoint, I think it's an important part of an overall offering from a conference to a broadcaster, but football is still drives the train.
Did you ever have conversations with Greg Sankey? And it's amazing to me because he started out at a college I used to cover when I lived in the East Texas, Laterno College. That's where he got his major in Longview. And he was at Utica, and other Northwestern Louisiana. So he started very small, and now here he is like the kingpin. Did you ever have a chance to talk with him much at all along the way?
Our paths crossed. I primarily dealt with Mike Flive, who
right.
was the commissioner at the SEC, but Greg was certainly around, and Mike was, clearly thought very highly of him. So it's not a surprise he's gotten to where he is. I think it's interesting in that, like you said, he kind of worked his way up through the minor leagues, as opposed to some of the conference commissioners these days that really have no collegiate background whatsoever. But I think he's got a good mix now, certainly with Greg having that experience, and then guys like Tony Petiti and Brett Yormark coming through different routes, into the collegiate world, and also, Jim Phillips, primarily through the collegiate side as well. So you've got, kind of two of each to kind of offset each other, which I think is good.
Bob, when we talked to you, I don't know, over a year ago, and we're talking to you regularly, there was such an appetite for live sports, and, these various properties, and we saw all of these networks rushing to gobble them up, but now it's kind of like there's kind of a pause on grabbing more territory and kind of a constriction going on, and I think you alluded to that, being a possibility that the bubble would burst, so to speak, or shrink. Could you just sort of lay out your opinion on where you see sports rights right now and networks, their involvement, and just kind of what are we looking at in the landscape as compared to when it was just so hot and heavy, a year or two ago?
Right. I think, we're at a bit of an inflection point, and I think that inflection point was exhibited by this, recent announcement by Disney, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery that they're going to, start a direct-to-consumer product that kind of cuts the cable operator and the satellite operator out of the middle and goes straight to the consumers. And I think this is, again, it's a bit of a progression that we're seeing, a transformation from the linear world to the digital world. I think that it's not going to happen as fast as people think. But I think the fact that Fox and ESPN / Disney and WBD making that move is indicative of the fact that they have to play in every one of these different platforms, whether it's, broadcast television, whether it's linear cable, whether it's direct to consumer streaming. And now we're seeing what we kind of thought we would see all along, which is a bundling of streamers. So you have the bundle on the cable side. Now we're starting to see bundling on streaming side. The other thing you're going to ultimately end up seeing, I believe, on the streaming side is there's going to be some consolidation. There's too many folks out there losing too much money for there not to be some sort of consolidation. And this is very typical for the media business. You go through these kind of growth phases, and then everybody realizes they can't eat everything they purchase. And so they figure out a way to kind of spread it amongst other folks and through, mergers or sales. I think that as far as the bubble goes and that where sports rights are going, I think that the prime and premier properties are going to continue to get above average increases. I think less valuable properties, we're going to see less increases, if any increases. And I think that the perfect example of that is what we saw happen to the Pac-12. They were offered less than they'd been basically getting in the past, and they didn't feel that was correct. But the TV people did. And the streamers, while they were certainly there at the end and were there at a pretty significant number, they weren't going to pay a cent more than they felt they had to. And so we're at that point now, I think, where the prime properties like, the NFL, but their deals are done for several years. So we're not going to see that in the news. But you've got the NBA coming up. You've got UFC coming up. There's a couple other things. CFP was one. So we're running out of premier properties that are going to be on the market in the short term. So we've got 4 or 5 years for everybody to kind of sort it out. The big question is always, do the tech companies make the decision ultimately that they want to be in this game, and they want to be in this game in a big way? And to do that, you do one of two things. You go in and outbid everybody else, or you go buy somebody who's already in the game. And that will be the kind of the interesting thing to me to watch. It's hard to get a table or a seat at the big boys table in the sports world, unless you're willing to go in and just blow people, off their seats with a huge bid so far above and beyond what anybody else was prepared to bid that the property can't just turn away. I mean, they got to take it. And so that'll be the question: is if one of the tech guys comes in and blows somebody away with an outsized deal just to get a seat at the table. But once you're at the table, you're going to be at the table every time, something's up for bid.
I always remember, I'll never forget when Fox just came out of really nowhere. It was always an ABC, NBC, CBS deal. And then all of a sudden back, what was that? I don't know, the 80s, 70s?
94, 93, 94.
93, 94. You were right there in the middle of that. Last thing, you've mentioned streaming, Fox, ESPN, WBD in the neighborhood. I saw this on a response you had, this like in the $40 to $50 a month neighborhood. Paramount, $10, Peacock, $6. How much will the one that you hear that has other streaming packages combined, is this going to end up in the end costing about the same as cable, or is it going to be about half without the local content?
I think it's going to be a little less than cable because at this point, none of the RSNs are in a big way. I mean, there are certain RSNs that are available streaming, but I think that you're going to have some packages and they're going to end up in the 60, 65 range, say, to get, the bulk of the sports you want to get. But, you're not far off from what Google, or YouTube TV is at like 70 something bucks, at least for now. That's what it's at. And so the question becomes, do you give up all those other channels, which you may not watch a lot, but you watch some, and then just have, the channels that are streaming that are part of the sports pack with, Fox, Disney, and WBD, and then you buy Peacock and you buy Paramount Plus, and you've got the NFL covered, and you've got a lot of stuff covered. But, like me, I watch CNBC pretty much every day, and they don't stream. So if I want that product, I'm kind of stuck in the bundle world, and that's fine. I think that I'm comfortable with that, and I've lived with that for years and years and years, and I don't want to go 100% streaming. If at some point I'm forced to because of cost or because certain product is only available streaming, then I'll make that decision at that time. But it always takes longer for these, new technologies to take over than people think. And, certainly, the linear world has dropped from 105 million subs down to 70 million subs. 70 million is still a lot of homes. And you multiply that number times, $10 a month like ESPN's getting, and it's still throwing off a lot of cash. But they're just covering their bases by making sure that they're available everywhere. Look, it's no different than Nike. You can buy Nike shoes at Dick's Sporting Goods or Foot Locker, but you can also buy Nike shoes direct from Nike on Amazon. And the TV guys are just trying to do the same thing. You gotta play in all the areas where your potential customers are. And and that means you have to get in the direct to retail business, direct to consumer business. You got to do it because there's 40 million some odd homes out there that used to have some sort of cable into their house that don't now, and maybe you can pick some of those off.
By the way, go ahead.
Yeah, Bob, you're not wrong about new technologies taking slow. I'll just give you the example of the Starbucks app. It's the easiest thing to use in the world, yet I still walk into Starbucks or get in the drive-thru and hear people yelling out a complicated coffee order when they could just type it into their phone and go, "Hi, I'm Paul, I'm here." And they're like, "Here's your coffee."
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Bob, Kim, by the way, the member at Anthem said, is it Travis, the head pro? Tell him that Kim Coulter said hello when you see him next time.
I will do that. Travis is the guy.
Travis, again, the pro where we now have Bob Thompson, where he plays his golf right on his back door. Bob, thank you very much, as always. Always such an enlightening and great experience from what you've learned over the years. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure, guys. Have a good week.
Bob Thompson, former Fox Sports CEO, retired, but still very much involved, and I think still kind of is a part of some things that are happening in television, et cetera, with college athletics and sports.
Yeah, I think I'm back. I think he kind of mentioned there's certain things he can't say fully because of just behind the scenes, but always good to hear him talk and enlighten us on just the market and the behind the scenes maneuverings and kind of, from his expertise and experience, what he feels or thinks or knows is going on to some extent. So, yeah, I mean, I think the answer, and I've said this for quite a while now, when it's come to any form of expansion and those who are on the outside looking in, so to speak, of what can we do, you have to go win. I mean, it really is that's all you can do. You can't add another 30 years to the history of your school. You can't just create a donor that's going to give you $100 million for facilities or NIL or whatever. You have to go out and win, and those things will magically follow. And you win enough, you separate yourself like the SEC was able to do in the 2000s and the 2010s. And you hope if you're a Big 12 or an ACC, whatever that looks like, or if the Pac-12, whatever that can be or was, you just go out and win and let the rest kind of try and take care of itself. But beyond that, I don't know what else you can possibly do to raise your brand and raise your profile enough to get significant money considerations. And so there it is. Go out and win and see where it all falls in the end if you're certain schools.
I'll use this as an example, and Paul will know this one. When Florida State was on the edge of losing their football program, and a guy named Bobby Bowden walked through the front door, they played anybody And they played most of the games against Oklahoma, Nebraska, Notre Dame, etc. on the road, knowing that they might get their teeth kicked in. But guess what they started doing? Beating those teams, winning those games. And then they started having games being played in Tallahassee. And that's what created what was a tremendous run under Bobby Bowden that ended up winning national titles.
It was, yeah.
So my point is, if you're the Big 12, and there aren't a lot of great non-conference games out there coming up this year, there aren't a lot of those games, go play those games, even if you know you might get your teeth kicked in, because what do you have to lose? Maybe you'll actually win them.
Anybody, anytime, anywhere worked for building the program. I mean, it worked. And that wouldn't necessarily be the case for everybody. I mean, granted, it had to intersect with the fact that you had a generational, brilliant coach running that, you know, also turned out to be, you know, one of the best recruiters of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So
in a state where they were leaving to play elsewhere rather than Florida, Florida State, and Miami.
Well, yeah, and like, you know,
enough of them.
Yeah, Florida wasn't really setting the world on fire then either. I mean, they were better than FSU, but they weren't, you know, outside of the Spurrier years when he was the quarterback, they were not known.
That was in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, they were, so like they have a few times where like, hey, the Gators were good, but they weren't known like Alabama or somebody was, you know, until Spurrier came back as the coach, really. I mean, Galen Hall had some good teams, but there's a reason that they brought in Steve. But yeah, they
took the risk of getting their teeth kicked in and not moving forward, and they actually started beating games. They remember the year they beat Nebraska, and then it was a common thing.
He and Schnellenberger in the state at the same time, kind of doing the same thing. Kind of ignited that state.
And so if you're a Big 12 team, you need to find some of those non-conference games, and hopefully if you can, if you're fortunate, win a few of them. You're not going to expect to win a lot of them. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, kind of been quiet when it comes to NFL free agency. There have been some stories.
Did y'all see my picture on Twitter?
Yeah, we put it up. You're a rock star.
Oh, definitely
we put it
not
up.
that. But man, I was trying to. I think he saw me. I think he felt the presence of the camera. No, he was.
Did he walk over to you and say, "Okay, I'm going to unblock you now"?
No, it was funny though because Steven, who we used to work with, said, "Tell him to unblock me," and I haven't formed my response yet. But my immediate thought was, "Well, me first," because I've been blocked for about 10 years. Not even joking.
It's been about 10. Yeah,
it's been. Maybe more than 10 at this point.
Speaking of which, you would love, if you go back and have a chance to listen to Bryce Petty and some of what he said, the leadership skills and what he was saying even about now was amazing to me.
Yeah. Steven actually saw him at Chipotle a couple weeks ago.
Here in Waco,
and said that he walked in and his feeling, because Steven's a TCU grad, was it was like seeing your high school girlfriend and you realize you have no feelings for them anymore.
Oh, my God.
Well, I definitely have had a lot of replies already of people who are just like, don't know how to look at that picture. But to my knowledge, it's the first of him in any kind of Baylor gear.
Yep.
And there was one moment where I could tell, like, I think he enjoys being out here, but I think he really wants to coach because you can't be hands-on. So he's sitting there and he's like watching this drill, and he's got his little notepad, and he's just taking notes because that's all he can do. And he'll, after the fact, go and like tell Aranda and everybody else, like, here's what I saw or blah, blah, blah. But he can't on-field instruct. And so there was a moment where his foot kind of started, like he was going to go say something. He's like, oh, I can't do that. And I was like, oh, that's got to be so painful
really can't.
As a football coach to just be restrained like that, where you can't go out and be like, no, turn your hips this way or whatever. So, but it was interesting. Got to see the new indoor. It's still coming along, but it's much bigger.
I saw where they
obviously.
were redoing the front, and they've extended it.
Yeah,
obviously
it's coming
we know all
along.
that. It's connected to the football ops around various ways. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, Paul's Top 5. By the way, Oregon has taken care of their business. They were able to move on and beat South Carolina handily in the game that just ended by 14. Illinois, we mentioned that's one of the earlier games. Texas is about to tip in 20 minutes.
We could use a ching-ching type of sound effect for Oregon State and Washington State every time a Pac-12 team wins. Just like a final score rolls in, ching-ching.
And an
more
SEC
money for
team is another loss.
The Beavers and the Ducks, or the Beavers and the Cougs.
Nevada with 5 minutes left leading Dayton by 9. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. They have specials. Go online, marcos.com. If you've eaten there before, you know what you want to order. And, of course, my favorite pizza, and we've gotten it here, but it's been a while, is a thin crust, pepperoni and sausage magnifico loaded up with pepperoni, double pepperoni and basically double Italian sausage. They cut slices, not corners. When you love something as much as they love something at Marco's Pizza, which began the tradition back in 1978, Founded in Oregon, Ohio, and now the fastest growing pizza brand in America, about Marco's Pizza. You can learn about them by eating their product. You can know that they have great pizza bowls. They have wings and sandwiches and soft drinks, salads, and more. And 5 locations in Waco: Hewitt, Woodway, Robinson, China Spring, and also in Belmead. That's the location that delivers here to our studio. Bob Mock, the local owner, he's been in the pizza business well before he ever bought Marco's franchises, and those are always available because they're growing so much. Marco's Pizza, Marcos.com, and pizza lovers get it.
It's Dodge Power Shot Days at Allen Samuels in Waco. Experience the adrenaline-pumping performance and cutting-edge technology of Dodge. From the sleek and stylish 2023 Charger to the performance and muscle of a Challenger to the bold and rugged Durango. During Dodge Power Shot Days, we're offering amazing deals and special incentives that will make driving a new Dodge even more exhilarating. Don't miss out on these exclusive savings. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco today and unleash the power of Dodge.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Are you ready to elevate your Waco experience to a whole new level? Look no further than the Baylor Club, where you can indulge in one-of-a-kind luxury and unwind in our exclusive lounge area. Located in the heart of McLean Stadium, this elite club offers 5-star member atmosphere for all your work and play needs. With a master culinary team and outstanding hospitality, we take pampering to a whole new level. Weddings, milestones, businesses, and birthdays. A stadium roaring with Bear spirit featuring stunning city skyline views. The Baylor Club truly has it all. The Baylor Club is the destination for Baylor basketball pregame meals, beverages with this special membership offer. If you mention Sikkim 365 or 365 Sports Radio, just ask for John or Devin for details. For interest in membership or your next private event, call 254-710-8080 or Google Baylor Club Linktree for more information on menus, calendars, upcoming special events. Say yes to the Baylor Club today. 254-710-8080 or Google Baylor Club Linktree.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, thanks for your patience. We appreciate you being a part of the show. No matter the decision-making, no matter the reason, no matter the philosophy, how difficult was it to see Tyron Smith sign with somebody else?
Well, I'm sure it was for the Cowboys. They wanted him back, and my understanding was he might have been asking for more money from the Cowboys than he was asking for from the Jets. But here's the bottom line, David. You know, the contract gets reported as 1 year, $6.5 million with incentives that can earn $20 million, right? Well, the Jets put a serious poison pill in that deal because the first tier of incentives was playing time. And the incentives were spread out between 38% of the snaps and 68% of the snaps. And if he got all 68% of the snaps, he would earn another $5.75 million. Well, here's the way the salary cap works. When you have incentives that the guy earned or exceeded the year before, which Tyron Smith did because he played 71.5% of the snaps for the Cowboys. So if he got to 68% with the Jets, they've got to count. It doesn't matter if he gets there or not. They've got to count that as a likely to be earned incentive. And so his cap hit for 1 year is going to be $12.25 million against the cap immediately. And the Cowboys didn't have that money available. Now, you can criticize them for not having money under the cap, though they spent it on very good players to keep them on the team. But there was no way they could count that at this time because they don't have the cap room. Now, if the player doesn't achieve that level of incentive, then they get a rebate next year. But for this year, against the cap for the Jets, he's going to count $12.25 million.
Mickey, the Cowboys pick at 24. I love to do mock drafts. I've just gone through and many, many times. It seems like given their positions of need, which is fortunate for a team, like you just said, does not have a whole lot of money under the cap and can just go get exactly who they'd want to fill, especially the starting spots they have open right now. Does this feel like it could be a trade back draft a la the Travis Frederick year?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, I don't know that you can determine that now. All I know, if you put their, obvious needs on a dartboard, just throw a dart and whatever it hits, they'll need it. Mm-hmm. I can't think of a position, other than probably quarterback that they couldn't use. Offensive line, sure. Running back, sure. Wide receiver, why not? Defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, cornerback, maybe don't need a safety.
Or a tight end.
And tight end. Other than that, there's a need there, and you can't fill it all in the draft. Now, if you can drop down a couple spots and still get one of those various needs and get an extra pick, then, so be it. But, they only got 7 picks, and really they only had 5 until they got the 2 compensatory picks. So, this notion about, well, they said they were all in. Well, they were all in last year because they made 2 trades using draft picks for this year to get Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore. And that may be the way they have to go eventually, before you get to training camp. If some teams have an excess at a spot where they have a need, then you start trading picks for next year to get guys this year. But again, I just don't know that if there's a talented guy at 24, doesn't matter what he plays, they probably need it.
Mickey, the positions that jump out at me that they need starters for would be tackle, center, and running back right now. Of those 3, I mean, I know there's others, but those are the ones that are glaring at the moment.
Well, let's look at it this way, though. What would be the cheapest way at this point to replace Tyron Smith at left tackle?
Draft a guy.
No, you move Tyler Smith there.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going. So how comfortable? So say they get to the point in the draft at 24 and the tackle's not there, but there's a really good guard or a good center, would they be comfortable knowing that maybe they don't get the tackle that they want, that Smith could bump out there and they're fine doing that, or are they married to the idea of him playing guard?
I think at this point they're not married to anything. Okay. And I think it's easier to find a guard than a tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not taking a guard in the first round.
Yeah.
So now, if it's a center and he's worthy of it, and like you said, you can pull a Travis Frederick and get away with it, why not? He's touching the ball every offensive snap. And the other thing that they've got decisions to make, right? Okay, what to do with Tyler Smith? Can he play tackle? Well, he was a tackle when they drafted him, and they needed him at guard, and he played well. But now they got to decide: do they have guys on the roster that can play center? Do they have guys on the roster that can play guard? They had two guys last year that they played in backup situations, Brock Hoffman at center and TJ Bass at guard. Now, do they think they're good enough to start in the National Football League? Both of them, coming to the Cowboys as undrafted free agents. But if you can get away with that and then you draft for depth in day 2 or day 3, that's the inexpensive way of filling those spots. But you just can't fill every spot they need through the draft. It'll be impossible. And then you're expecting, if they try, that they're going to hit on every one of those, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, I would imagine they sign somewhat of a veteran running back, just like they did last year with Ronald Jones. Didn't make the team, but you have that as insurance. Defense. I mean, how important is the defensive tackle position now? You lose Jonathan Hankins, you lose Neville Gallimore, you got Osa there, but after that, you got to make a decision. Can Mozzie Smith play in this league, or did they miss that pick? Now, they say they've got confidence in him that he can do that. Well, do they have enough confidence in him not to take another defensive tackle in the first round? Linebacker? Oh, who's playing linebacker? Damone Clark, Eric Kendricks, and is Micah Parsons a linebacker, or is he a defensive end? Or is he a linebacker that moves to defensive end in passing situations? Well, if he's not a full-time defensive end, do you trust Sam Williams to be a full-time defensive end? Because then it's just Sam Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence. So they've got there is a rainbow of colors full of needs that they have on this team at this point. So to pinpoint they need this at this point, I don't know that we know that.
Mickey, we got to go, and I know you do as well. Is there somebody that Dan Quinn, he's going to bring players with him because he knows them and thinks he can get the best out of some of the ones, and they've been pretty responsible. They haven't gone out like some teams or like Washington's done before and just like overpaid for everything. Is there somebody you thought he might take with him that he hasn't, that was available to go?
I think he's got about all. Yeah. Maybe Jaron Kearse, although he didn't have a really good year last year. Mm-hmm. But he was his kind of toy as the kind of tall, big safety to play the linebacker spot against tight ends. If he's not, signed here in another week or so, Washington's got enough money to, like I said last week, they got enough money to make mistakes, and it doesn't hurt them in free agency. They can offer him a year or two contract. I could see that happening. But as for the other guys that might be available on this team, it's drying up fast, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mickey, I would say the biggest chunky outside of Tyler Biotish, obviously, who was their starting center, but one that the Cowboys, it's just going to be hard to find a guy who did what he did in all the different ways, kind of like when Cedric Wilson left, is Dorrance Armstrong. He was just so darn reliable, whatever they asked him to do. He was just went out there and made plays.
No. You realize 8.5 sacks last year, second on the team. 7.5 sacks this year, second on the team. That's 16 sacks in 2 seasons. That was a big loss.
Blocked punts. I mean, everything.
Special teams, right?
Yeah.
And he played fewer snaps this year than he did last year, and he was as productive, if not more, if you look at the percentages, right? So yeah, that was a huge loss. They thought they were going to re-sign Jonathan Hankins, and Seattle had more money. So don't anybody fool you. The money counts in free agency, and it's cap money. And the Cowboys just spent a lot of it last year restructuring contracts and pushing signing bonus down the line to it caught up with them this year, and they're paying the price.
Mickey, greatness, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, with us on Thursdays on 365 Sports. By the way, in a dramatic comeback, Dayton was trailed almost, I think, most of the game against Nevada. And the Flyers,
yep,
they're in the second round. They win 63-60, and it looked like Nevada really, really struggled with a little bit of pressure on the ball out front, and they started turning it over, and then Dayton started making shots, and Nevada, they advance into the second round 63-60. Great comeback for them. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off of Richland Drive in Valley Mills in Waco. I will, Craig, go get your post-game stuff. I will need to go by there at some point, probably tomorrow if I feel good enough to do it, and get myself a few cigars for the weekend. Although I had a really good friend send me some white label Rocky Patel cigars that are spectacular, and I will save those for special occasions like I did having some of those with my brother in Florida last weekend. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, 48-foot walking humidor with Rocky Patel, with Cohiba, with Padron, and so much more. Macanudo, Ashton, it's fantastic. CBD products, which is called Vita Dreams for those who want to try to maybe just calm down a little bit before you go to sleep at night, not toss and turn and have so much in your mind. And for chronic and very bad pain, THC products, it's called THC products for bad days, available too. It's Cheyenne, Carol, and Ashley. They run it. They understand it. They know it. They can give you advice on what they have and more, and even the trends that are being set in the business at Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
So, it appears, I think this is right. Dayton went on
20-2 at one point.
They went on a 14-0 run to end the game, I think.
No, Nevada scored to take the lead like 60-59 or whatever, but it was like a 28-2
run. They had a ridiculous run to end that game. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, top 5 reasons for your program to hire Will Wade. And this is dedicated to you, Garrett.
My man, appreciate you.
All right. Number 5. He brings an edge. Like if you were missing that, he certainly brings an edge. You watch the way McNeese State plays, they don't give a you know what. Like they just go out there and play and hoop, and he brings an edge to them there's a swagger, an edge, whatever you want to call it. And Garrett's kind of got me on board on this, just watching. Like I went back and I've been looked at the stats and the way that they play and, looking at the bracket this week. I think it would be foolish if you've got an opening, to not at least consider him. Now, look, not everybody's a fit everywhere, but if you have got a culture that would fit him and a program that needs a spark, like I know Louisville won't do it because like they're hiring another coach that got caught up in the same thing that they were caught up in, but that's the kind of coach that probably Louisville needs right now to shoot some energy into the program for sure.
Yeah, he is fiery. He will bring a personality and an edge, as you said, to whoever he goes to, and he'll win.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll win.
Number 4.
Is that one of the 5?
Yeah.
He'll win.
he can recruit.
Well, we know that. And even better now because he can do it anyway.
Yeah. And he can bring guys in. Look what he did with McNeese State. He just turned around, and Garrett hustled and got
Took everybody. Yeah.
Hustled and went and got these guys. Now, are those guys going to be at McNeese State next year if Will Wade is not? No. Probably not. But he's gotten guys to McNeese State that probably would have normally gone there, and put together. I use this analogy a lot, but that like Las Vegas Golden Knights roster of, maybe not a superstar, but they've got like all their lines are 2s, is where everybody else doesn't have that, so they kind of have that all the way around, and he can absolutely go out there and recruit. And look, he was doing it at LSU. There's no doubt about that.
Ben Simmons,
yeah, exactly. And he got the most out of Ben Simmons than anybody's ever gotten out of Ben Simmons.
Ever.
Ben Simmons without Will Wade is, it's like just a slice of toast without butter on it.
For some reason, I went back and looked at him the other day as far as the games he's played. And I think there was one year where he was out most of the year. He has missed an inordinate amount of games. And sometimes injuries or
I think he's got 2 problems.
I think he zones out a little bit and then just like, I'm done.
He's injury prone.
That's not probably fair, but
and he's also got a big case of the I don't want us, and you're paying me anyway.
Yep. There you go.
So there
I agree.
you go.
And I mean paying a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's making a lot. I keep kicking this thing out.
Would you stop grabbing my knee?
Number 3. He's not stuck in the past. This is not a guy who
not a retread.
No, he's not a retread, and he's also not stuck in this is the way that we should do things. This is the way that it was, and I think that that's important.
What was that you said the other day? That's the way you used to do it, and we liked it.
Yeah,
somebody
that's
said
the way
that
it
to
was,
us.
and we liked it.
Yeah.
And like you can't do that anymore. You can certainly, have ideals and goals and morals and all those things, but you do have to. And we asked Dave Aranda when he sat right here about this. Like, you have to find that line of what the new world is, what you want the world to be, and what you're comfortable doing in the new world. That way, you don't mess with your ethics, but you also don't live in an ivory tower.
Right.
That's the advice I would give to Dabo Swinney, as a matter of fact. Like, look, I know you don't like it, but find the way that it works for you so that you're not the only one sitting by yourself going, I don't like this transfer portal. Well, everybody else likes it. You can't, Dabo Swinney's kind of like me with Kenny Chesney. He's out on the hill alone.
One of these days, he's going to come up to you. You're going to bump into him at I don't know what event. He's going to start singing to you, look you deep in the eyes, and you're going to melt.
I want to say, listen, can we be friends, but you never sing to me again?
Yeah.
This is my problem with you. It has nothing to do with your personality. You seem like a nice guy. I just don't like this whole thing. Number 2, he will hustle NIL. And when I say hustle NIL, I don't mean about recruiting. He will make sure that it is secured and that because he believes in it, he knows how to go and do it. And it is a huge part now. Like, it is.
I think one of the things, and I brought this up, I think I did earlier in the week about Scott Drew, the Louisville, whatever the noise was. And of course, that was never to the point where it was even on perhaps it was there, but it was never really going. Is that I think one of the things Scott would like to have better at Baylor is that he doesn't have to hustle as much to do the NIL, like the tournament in Detroit. And again, GXG's helping a great deal, but I think he wants something even more so from the Baylor perspective outside of what GXG does and what he does.
And the thing is that even if Will Wade gets what Scott Drew wants or here, they still know how to do it. They still are willing to do it. They still know the avenues to do, because if Scott says, hey, let's go make a deal with this tournament in Detroit, I'm going to go coach, like that's what he wants, is for somebody else to do that so that he can focus on other things.
Yep.
But Will Wade knows how to do that. So I think that's something, because hustling NIL is going to be a big thing. He also clearly has no problem making deals. Listen to the phone call.
Yep.
Just listen to the famous phone call.
Yep.
He's fine with that. And number one, he wins. The dude
I
wins.
stole that from you.
Yeah.
You stole
he
that from
wins.
me. Yep, he does.
He absolutely wins. He gets W's. And if you're a program that's stuck there, look,
Patino.
Do you know who he's a fit for?
Bruce Pearl, guys that have been through Kelvin Sampson.
If everybody else is too afraid to go hire him or doesn't want that, you know who I know won't be right now, who just fired their coach today? SMU.
Yeah.
Ooh. SMU and Will Wade would be a great match. A great match. He's in a great basketball league in the ACC. Look, if Florida State and Clemson leave, that's not hurting the basketball.
No.
I know Clemson's in the tournament this year, but, congratulations to you. It's the same thing as when Florida State gets in. Like, ooh, we got a cookie.
Yep.
We're not going to win the thing. So he's going into a good basketball league. He's going to a school that is pushed all their chips to the middle of the table on NIL and the new way of doing things, so they can stay in the new world of college athletics. But yeah, he's going to win. So, and look, I wouldn't be surprised if they fired Rob Lanier knowing that they can go get Will Wade, because so many schools have a bug up their ass about it, that they're like, whoa, we can't do that.
Touch him.
Yeah.
Somebody brought that up with Texas. If in fact they were to go, and I don't think they would.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those where they would rather, remember the kid from Lake Travis who did something with the bullying or whatever?
That's a good point.
And they're just, and you got to give them credit for that. They've taken maybe, like the Sarkisian thing could be considered a possible risk, but that's something different than like what is a, what's the word I'm looking, like something that could be like very legal or a little bit of, whoa, be careful. I'm sure a lot of coaches or a lot of ADs would like to hire him that probably won't be given that opportunity. All right, Paul, thank you very much. Texas and Colorado State early on. Colorado State, remember they played earlier in the week, and they're up 8-2. It's very early, like 4 minutes or so, maybe the first timeout, TV timeout. Thank you to all of you, even though the tournament's been going on, that have been a part of the show today. Thanks to our guest. I just love the honesty and transparency we got from former Baylor Big 12, two-time Big 12 championship quarterback Bryce Petty about that game in November and the honoring the teams in November against TCU. For Emery Winter, Jack McKenzie's on the road in Memphis. Levi Caraway somehow is somewhere covering baseball. And Garrett Ross, Paul Catalina. Craig's at Baylor football practice to get the latest. I think Jake Spavital will be heard after practice today. I'm David Smoak, and our great sponsors will be here tomorrow. We will have coverage of Baylor and Colgate and a lot more, and a lot more as we do. And it's kind of fun to have games going on while we're doing this show. Don't forget tonight, 10:30, 365 Sports Tonight on the local CW. Good night.